This week on NWP, you boys like Mexico? Yeah!
Come in and put your weary feet up. Come in and gently close the door. Our time will leave you intrigued and wanting more. Remove your clothes, listen to those headphones. Take off your pants, relax.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 174. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian. I'm joined as always by Justin.
I don't get this Mexico reference thing. I like Mexico. They seem like fine people. What's this all about?
You know, it's a bit from the intro to Super Troopers, and I was just thinking the other day about what a simpler time it was when that movie was released, because it was even like, not only was it pre-COVID-19, but it was also pre-9/11. So like the characters in the beginning of the intro part are where they tell the troopers that they're actually crossing over into Canada to get some French fries and gravy. And I was like, oh right, remember when you could just like cross into Canada? Like
That is the thing you used to be able to do. Yeah, you can't do that now.
I find myself just like starting to long for the before time, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
I feel like we should do a little check-in every episode, because these are 2 weeks apart, so it's like that's a lot of time for shit to go real wrong right now.
No, so far I'm all right. I mean, that could it could change next week, but I'm all right. I've been worse. I've been better. You know, what are you gonna do?
I think there's been a lot of stuff for me that's made me feel even weirder than I normally do, because of everybody talking about how terrible it is to be like indoors and not socializing with people and yada yada yada. I'm like, but that's just how I live,
Right.
And it just makes me feel like very like called out in a way that I don't think people. I know that's not the intent, but it's
right.
like, but you do realize that there's some people that this is just their life, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some people who don't get to socialize with people.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan
or
of it.
don't want to socialize with people.
Never been a big fan of it myself. So, you know, here I am. You guys are all living in my world now, and I'm sorry it sucks here. For those of you that it sucks for. I do apologize.
And I've also gone into kind of a spiraling depression from a game that I've been playing, but we'll talk about that in Consumption Junction.
Sure.
For sure.
I'm sure we will. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I think that's all the preamble stuff. I don't think we have any announcements or anything. So we'll go ahead and take off our pants, relax, and head on into the stage select. This week's stage select is my pick. Well, actually, I have to give credit again to friend of the show, John Golson, because it's actually him who gave me this idea. But I wanted to know some of your greatest gaming regrets. I have so many regrets, just in general, and just like the way that I operate in life and things that I have done or not done. But I have quite a few gaming regrets as well. And I didn't really put a number on it or anything like that. And I, left it loose as far as how you wanted to find gaming regrets.
Yeah.
So,
I had a lot of trouble with this one. I had one good story, and then I was like, I don't know if I have much else that I could think. I dug deep, but I'll try my best. Yeah.
All right. Do you want me to go first? Because I've got a few.
You can go first. You can do however you feel like. I can go first. I mean, I got stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
You know what? I'll just get one out of the way. We'll just do that.
Yeah. Lay it on me.
See if it works. Let's see. I guess I'll just start. I got basically when I was a kid. Like I think I've owned almost every console at one point or another. Maybe not every one of them. I know there's a few I miss a lot of Nintendo consoles, but I think at some point or I don't know, at some point in life, I would always get talked into either trading in a console or selling it or selling all my games off. I've definitely sold just about every game I've ever had at one point in my life. And a lot of them I regret. Like, I wish I still had my Super Nintendo, and I wish I still had my regular Nintendo, and I wish I still had just a lot of that stuff, man. Because, like, I look up the prices for some of the games that I had, and they were, like, hard to find games and shit. Like, and I wish I still had them. Like, I wish I still had, like, Saturday Night Slam Masters for Super Nintendo. Like, I don't know if that's worth anything, but I wish I still had it because I loved that game. I wish I still had, like...
I don't think that one's worth a ton of money, but it's so fun. Like,
yeah.
and it's never been re-released on any Capcom collection, which is weird.
Yeah, that's what I mean. After that, I never seen it again. And I used to have so much fun with that game. And I remember, at least in my area, it was super hard to find. We had to go like through hell and high water. I think we had to travel out of town to find it because I played it at an arcade in an Italian restaurant of all fucking places. And I was just like, oh, this game's awesome. And then I found out that it had a Super Nintendo port, and I was like, well, I want that game. Wish I had it. And I don't now. I did have it, and I've beaten it a bunch of times. I missed that game. It was fun. What else? I mean, I had like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I had a whole PlayStation 2 collection that I think that's another one of my regrets I'll get into later. But, like, man, yeah, it sucks. I miss that stuff. I wish I wouldn't have sold all that stuff. And it wasn't even me. It would just be, like, my parents were very good at convincing me. 'Cause, you know, parents are, you know, what they are. Especially, you know, older people don't quite, you know, understand video games. And, you know, I understand that. So they were just like, hey, you know, this is a toy. You should sell these toys off. And I mean, I had a lot of like original Transformers and all that stuff, and all that stuff got sold in like garage sales because, hey, you're not using this, you should sell it and get money, and then you can go buy new stuff. And to a kid, I was like, yeah, that sounds excellent. And now looking back at all the stuff that I've sold off over the years, I'm like, really wish I wouldn't have done that. I really wish I still had all this stuff.
That's interesting because the way that you've talked in the past, I got the impression that at some point you were like, I'm just going to go ahead and unload all of my games just to like bank and then just get rid of it and go digital.
Well, when I got older, yes.
Okay.
Like right now, yes, that's totally me. I would totally get rid of any physical copies I had. I think I have. I mean, I'll get it. I have the Final Fantasy VII Remake copy. That's like one of the very few actual physical game copies I have. I think I have Soul Calibur 6. I've never even opened it. It is still sealed. But like I have like a few physical copies of games, but not many. I'm more of a digital guy. I didn't get real into the digital stuff until like recently. But you know, before that, like I was more of a physical games guy, and like. And then, like, I don't know, I have this, like, devil on my shoulder a lot of times where, like, a new thing will come out that I want, and I would be kind of broke or something. I'd be like, man, and this isn't the case now, but, like, when I didn't have a decent job or whatever, I was just like, man, I would really like this new shiny new game that I've had my eye on. Well, I wonder what I could get for this other games. And I would just sell, like, 10 games off just to get that one new thing. And wish I wouldn't have done that now, but I wish I still had some of that stuff, but you know, I don't. And I guess that's one of my regrets. It doesn't weigh on me a whole lot, but at the same time, it's like, man, there's definitely a few things here and there that I wish I did have. And that's, you know, I guess that's one of them. Like I said, I had to dig a little deep for this one, and like this is one of those ones that doesn't bother me as much, and it doesn't make me mad or anything. There's one I'm saving the one I get mad about thinking about for last. And it's more comedy than anything else, but I still get mad about it. I legit get pissed about it. But yeah, that's mine. That's my first one. Like I said, it's not as extravagant as maybe it should be. I don't know. Hopefully I did okay.
No, that's good.
Okay.
It's actually like, I was going to save this for last, but it fits in really well here, so I'll just go ahead and say it. But I'm right there with you. Longtime listeners know that I worked at a independent game store called Game Fellas for like 8 years. And I really regret the way that I would like just like trade in games instantly to get another game. Now, there's two sides of the coin to that. Like, I cannot impress upon listeners enough just how many games I owned during that 8-year period.
Right.
Okay, like, and we're talking from like PlayStation 1 to like the tail end of the PlayStation 2, right? Because those were both like very long generations.
Right.
But in that time span, I owned almost every console that you can think of, with the exception of like, I never had the original Xbox. I never had the 3DO, the Jaguar, or the TurboGrafx.
Interesting.
I had everything else. Oh, I didn't have a Neo Geo.
Yeah, nobody did. Yeah, you're fine.
Almost don't even count that.
Yeah,
it's like saying I also didn't own arcade cabinets, right? Like that's basically in the same line of thinking.
Yeah.
And I had tons of games for it, and we're also talking about like the portables. Like I had most of the portables, definitely all the Nintendo ones.
I did too.
And like I keep my games in pristine condition, Justin. Like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo games that I still have that I bought originally. I mean, they have the styrofoam, they have the plastic baggies, they have the plastic fitter over the cartridge part,
right,
for the Super Nintendo. Like all of that stuff, all the documentation, even the like Nintendo Power adverts and crap like that, it's all there. And that's how all of my games were. So all of my PlayStation 1 games, perfect condition discs, my Game Boy Advance games or Game Boy Color games, boxes, manuals, everything.
Right.
But beyond that, like, just thinking about, because it's not even that, like, I had like a lot of just like really eclectic games. Like I was thinking, I don't know why I keep thinking about this one, but I think because it's so expensive. But like Silent Bomber for PS1 is like a perfect example of like this game that most people have never heard of. Right. It's a solid little action game. You only have bombs to use. It looks like Metal Gear Solid as far as like it's an overhead perspective.
Okay.
But you only have bombs, and it's an action game. But I think it goes for like $500+ now. Like it is one of the crazy expensive PlayStation 1 games. And it's like, I like so many things like that. And of course we talked last episode about, I used to have Panzer Dragoon Saga,
right,
and just all of these really amazing things. And I wish that at the time that I had thought about actually keeping the games to collect instead of just getting them, because there were ways that I could have like still touched a lot of these games without having to buy them at full price. Like I could have checked them out from the store overnight. I could have waited for a used copy and then bought that. Like maybe it would have changed the way that I consumed games. Like maybe I wouldn't have played as many as I did.
Right.
And when I talk about as many, it's like I probably played every major release that came out every week for 8 years.
I believe you.
So like there are very few people in games journalism that can say that. But like, I use that collecting app to scan in my collection, and it says that my collection is worth about $20,000. And I know that it lowballs a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I would say like combine, if you add in the hardware and then actually like sell it for, or evaluate for what it's actually going for on eBay, it's easily over 30,000.
Hot damn.
But it is a small, minuscule fraction of what I used to own. And so there's part of it is that I wish I still had just that huge collection to fill a room. Part of it is that it would be great to be able to like sell some of that stuff. And then there's a third part that is kind of tied into a possible future like major life change that I don't want to talk about, but it's something that's been kicking around in my head for a while, and I'm like, oh god damn it, I wish I still had that stuff. Yeah, that'd come in really handy right now. Damn it. Yeah, man, like, and then that must have bought Resident Evil 1 like 10 or 11 times while I worked there. Import games, I had a ton of import games for like PS1 and Saturn, and
I never had the ability to import anything. Like in this area, that was like nearly impossible. We didn't have a store like that. Like you had to go to a bigger city to like get anything like that. And I was whatever age at the time. There was no way I could convince anybody to go do that. Plus, I'd have to learn Japanese. It just didn't seem worth it. So a lot of that stuff I kind of missed out on a lot of the import market. But
I didn't import like RPGs and stuff like that. It was mostly like fighting games and action games.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I would love to still have my Game Boy Color, Beast Wars super deformed fighting game that is actually pretty freaking good. Like you can actually do 2-in-1 combos and stuff on a Game Boy. That was really good. Oh, and then I wish that I had my whole Neo Geo Pocket collection, because ka-ching.
Yeah, that would have been worth pretty. Yeah, see, yeah, I guess you had a lot more than I had, but at the same time, I still wish I still had some of the stuff that I had.
I wish that I could find like a really good, comprehensive US only list of like PS1 and PS2 games, so that I could just check them off and just to see like how many of them did I own, because it was a lot.
I think there's one on Wikipedia, but it's not like a checklist type thing.
Well, and it also has it, but it has every region. At least the one that I've seen had every region. And so I'm like, wait, no, that's the Japanese name of this American game, and that's the UK thing that I've never even heard of. Yeah, I haven't been able to find just like a US release. I'm sure if I
if you really sat down and looked, I'm sure you could probably figure it out, or just like parse the list for like, oh no, North American, just go by North American releases or whatever. I think they do specify that on there. I can't remember. I know I've looked at that list before, because I rented a lot of that shit. Like that was, God, I wish I owned half the shit I've ended up renting for however many times and played through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Or just
one of these days, I'll get a number for the listeners just so that they can like collectively shit their pants. I can't stress. I am not like over exaggerating at all. Like it's a fuck ton of games, guys.
I believe it. I totally believe it, man.
It's all I did with all of my like discretionary money for 8 years. And I didn't really have a lot of bills because I lived with my mom. So,
right.
And she was way too kind. So yeah, it was an embarrassing amount of money that I spent on video games every paycheck.
Man. It happens. Well, I guess my next one is it's more of a short story, and it's kind of along the same lines, because it's I was trying to think of like a game I played that I regretted playing, but there's a lot of games that I like bad games sometimes. I just find them fun. Like I sat down and devoted it like an entire day one time to beating what was it? Fucking
Kissed by the Baddest Bidder.
No, I didn't beat that one. I only played through like the first part. I played through what you heard on that podcast. That's about all I played through. I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. I played through what was it? Estival versus shit. It's like a beat 'em up. The girls.
The Quiet Man?
No, Quiet Man. I beat that, or didn't beat that. I didn't even play through. I couldn't get to the end of that. I tried. I tried. That one was really bad.
You play a lot of bad games, Justin. I can't sit here and list them all.
A lot of them I think are funny. I'm trying to think of this one. You hit the girls and their clothes come off. It's so terrible. Oh my God, I have to look this up.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I know. It's a long running series. Senran Kagura?
Senran Kagura. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Senran Kagura Estival versus for the PlayStation 4. I was like, what is this? I sat there and beat the entire thing because I don't know why. That's not even. This isn't even the story.
I own multiple versions of Onechanbara Bikini Zombie Hunters.
That's one I wanted to play. I could go do it. I've just been like, nah, I'm not. I have the girl tattooed from Onechanbara on my arm, so that's. They're
fun in like an Earth Defense Force kind of way. It's that level of quality.
Yeah, that's kind of how the Senran Kagura series is. It's not good, but it's stupid as hell. It's so dumb that I kept laughing at it, that I couldn't help but laugh at how bad it was. But no, like the other story, it kind of ties into like what we've been talking about, just like selling games you wish you didn't. And like when I was in Utah, way back in the day, I had a pretty good PlayStation 2 collection. I'd built it up from a job that I was working, not in Utah, but before that, there was a little local game store that a lot of people went, and this was a small town game store. Basically, their whole thing was they would set up. It was a good friend of mine, actually. I knew him from before he even set this up. And he was like, I'm gonna make game stores in little small towns that don't have game stores. So like they have it was kind of like a DVD, trade-in kind of thing. Most of their money came from people like buying movies and stuff, but they also had just like a great selection of really old games and old consoles that people would come in and trade in for, whatever movies or whatever they wanted. So they'd get a lot of stuff. And like, it was also a place I could go and be like, hey, I'm looking for this game. And he'd be like, I will order that for you. As long as if you pay up front for it, I can order it for you and get it here. So I was like, great. Now that I have, income, I'm going to start, I've regretted all this other stuff from, selling a lot of my stuff. I'm going to start building my collection back. I'm going to start with PlayStation 2 because that was like PlayStation 2 was kind of yeah, it was starting to go. Time to do it. Yeah, exactly. It was on its way out. Basically, the next gen was starting to take over at this time. It was right around, Xbox 360 had been around for like a year or two. There were still PlayStation 2 releases, but not very many. It was in its dying days, and a lot of the prices were going way down. So, like, I could buy, however many games for like $10 or, however much it was. So that was what I was doing. I was like, okay, I'm just going to start collecting all these games, just get them all. I started getting like the Suikoden series and stuff. Like I think I had 3, 4, and 5 for PlayStation 2. I had Persona 3, the really good edition of it. I can't remember what it was called. But there was like a better version of Persona 3. And that's the one I had. It came out later on. Cost me a good mint for that one because it was hard to find. You had to order it to find it. Like this guy had to go out of his way, and I remember him telling me, he's like, man, this thing was a pain in the ass for me to get. He's like, I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you like it. I've never even heard of this game. I was like, man,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that was one like that, and Persona 4 were like two of the like last releases.
Yep.
For the PS2.
Yeah, I do believe you're correct.
I have. Oh wait, no, that's PS3. I have the final PS3 release that I bought for investment purposes, which is like Guilty Gear, whatever the fuck. Like it's still sealed. I was like, oh, the last like major game that comes out for a system that isn't like a sports game or whatever, always ends up going up because like it's always such a low print run. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get that.
Right. Yeah, I was in that like collecting mode. I was just like, okay, get all the Devil May Cry games. I don't care if 2's bad. Just get it. Just get it to have it. Just so I have them all. Like, I don't play any of these Resident Evil games. Buy them anyway. They're cheap. Just get them. Just buy them to have them. Maybe someday you will want to play them or show somebody this game. Just buy these things. Like, stuff I'd never heard of, I was like picking up. Just like, hey, it's like $5 maybe, just to have it. And I started amassing a pretty good collection and like took it with me when I moved, and I fell on hard times. I had to like kind of, the story basically goes is like, well, I need money because I'm broke right now. Things have happened, as a string of bad things have happened. So we're going to have to sell some stuff. All right, what are we going to sell? And I was like, okay, I don't want to sell my bass guitars that I have, which I ended up having to do anyway, which was very depressing. At least the one. I had to sell a Fender acoustic bass. That was really sad. That was my favorite guitar. But I had to sell that, and I had to sell basically almost that entire collection, except for stuff that like wasn't worth anything. Like it was worth like a few cents or whatever, and I was like, I guess I might as well keep it because it's not worth anything. Like. So like those were like the Grand Theft Autos that, they printed 1 million of them or however, whatever. But like all my Suikodens and stuff. And I remember walking into this place. It was called Mario's. I believe it was in the Provo Mall. And I walked in with a giant box of games and I just set it on the counter. I was like, what do you give me for these? And they're like, well, this is going to take us a while. We're going to have to go through them. And they're going through them, and I'm listening to her. She's talking to another girl on the phone, and this girl's giving her the prices. Basically, this girl sounds like a Julian Titus. Like, she knows the prices this well. Like, she's just like, yeah, this one's worth this much and stuff like that. And I remember she was like, she would get to certain games like, okay, Suikoden 5, what is that worth? And the girl, I would see her eyes light up at like how much the price was on it. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's worth a lot. I know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sell it. Oh, that was a depressing moment. And I wish I wouldn't have had to do that. But at the same time, I kind of had to do it. But
yeah, that's my possibly a larger life regret.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, yeah, I wish circumstances hadn't gotten where they got to here, but at the same time, they did.
Yeah,
and that, you know, it's one of those things I always remember. Wish it didn't have to. Wish it hadn't happened, but I would have more of a collection now. Like since recently, I've been buying a lot of the other stuff that I didn't have anymore, or like a lot, at least the PlayStation 1 stuff, because I did have to sell a few of those too. Like I had to sell Final Fantasy VII. I remember like the original copy that I had, because that was a big one that I had, and that was a depressing one because I had that since I was a kid. And like, I bought it. Yeah. Yeah, I bought it a million times digitally now. So, and it's fine. Like, that's cool that I can still buy that game. But at the same time, I didn't have the other thing is I didn't have the system to play it on anymore. So,
yeah.
You know, it was just a disc. That was my reasoning too. I was like, you don't have a way to play it, Justin. Like it doesn't exist for you. Like you own this game. Yeah, but you can't even play it. There's nothing you can pop it into that'll actually work. So just sell it, man. Like, what are you hanging on to this stuff for? And I was like, you're right, self. This is a thing we have to do. And now, like I said, I've been refilling a lot of this stuff digitally. Like my Vita is full of stuff now that I never owned before or did own. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I have this. I don't want to play it, but I'm glad I have this now. So, you know, I'm slowly making it up over the course of my life and filling up hard drives with games that I'll probably never play. But I'm more of a digital hoarder than anything else now. I enjoy that aspect of collecting, I guess, more. I don't know. Hopefully next gen, I can actually just put them all on one big hard drive and have them work on all the systems. Well, we'll soon see about that, I guess. But yeah. That's one of them for me. I do regret that, but at the same time, it's another thing where I'm like, yeah, but it kind of had to happen. And like, I don't feel that bad
it's regrettable, about it. but there was no way around it, you know?
Exactly. It had to happen.
The only, unless, because then you start talking about like, well, if I never moved there, then it never would have happened. But then who knows what life would have been at that point, you know? Like,
I never regret moving there. Like,
yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
shit got hard and shit got like really real because I was away from, you know, everybody that I knew. But I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about like just a lot about the world and weird cultures and all this other stuff that I would have never had just sitting at home in Ohio. So I will never regret that till the day I die.
Yeah.
So, you know, I lost some stuff in the process, but at the same time, like, man, it's all right, you know.
but you gained a little bit of yourself along the way.
Exactly. I even at the end, I remember I had my Xbox 360, and I was like, well, it's time to move back home. We have done all we can here. We have run out of options. We're getting out of this place. And I remember I knew this kid. His name was Devin. He's a really great kid. I taught him how to play Magic the Gathering. That was the big thing I did in Utah. That was like my community. Is I went to the comic book store, hung out with a bunch of nerds, and played Magic the Gathering with them. And I taught this like 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid how to play Magic the Gathering, and he was a fucking beast at it. Like, he was really good at it. And he was like the most insanely lucky person I've ever seen in my life. Like, he could pick up a pack of cards and know what was in it. And he was
he's like right. Patrick.
Yeah,
he's like Patrick with Hearthstone.
But almost to a psychic level, because he would call out what was in it and be right. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you are, but it's weird and it's kind of cool at the same time. Like, to the point where the comic book store had to tell him to stop doing it for people, because they're like, this is actually starting to hurt our business. We can't let you do this anymore. Like, we don't know what you have going on, but anyway, he was like, hey, so I'm looking for an Xbox 360. Do you want to sell yours? I was like, I'm not playing any of these games. I sold him my Xbox 360, and the couple games that I had for it, none of them were worth anything. None of them were really any good. I think it was like couple Grand Theft Auto. I had traded so much Xbox 360 stuff in over the years that I was just like, He's like, man, you have a lot of wrestling games. I was like, yeah, I have a lot of wrestling games. Sorry. Those were the games I held on to because they weren't worth anything afterwards. Those were the games I didn't trade in. When they weren't worth anything, I was just like, I guess I'll hold on to them because they aren't worth anything now. But yeah, like I said, it's regrettable, but at the same time, whatever.
Yeah. Well, this next one I have is, it's something that never even occurred to me, so I don't know if you can call it much of regret other than, like, in hindsight. As people may or may not know, Iguana Entertainment, who they were best known for doing the NBA, the Super Nintendo port of NBA Jam, but they eventually became Acclaim Austin. Okay. And they made such games as Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, you might have heard of it.
Oh yeah, I remember
South Park 64, you might have heard of that.
Yep.
Turok 2. And at some point, it's weird how it happened, but at some point, Jim, the assistant manager at Game Fellas, ended up getting a testing job at Acclaim Austin.
Okay.
Which I thought was really cool. He was doing testing for Turok 3, and then he ended up moving up to design, and he worked on one game that never came out. It was a game based on the comic book 100 Bullets.
Oh, that's so disappointing that never came out. Well, actually, maybe it's not because but I love 100 Bullets. It's one of my favorite comic book series. I love that comic book.
I actually think I got to play a demo of it at, I played a demo of it at my last E3.
Okay, was it bad? Just let me know.
It was all right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad. I would have probably been way into it because I love that comic, but I would have convinced myself it was good. Anyway, go on.
and he actually did, and the other game he worked on ended up shipping, but not from Acclaim because Acclaim Austin was shut down. But it was called like the Red Star or something like that. It's like an overhead shooter for the PS2. I think it might be based on a comic as well. But anyway, it never occurred to me to ask him if he could get me in, because back then, so we're talking 2002, 2003. I think that was still the time when you didn't need like some crazy degree,
right?
In like computer programming or stuff like that in order to get like an entry level job in the video games industry. Mm-hmm. Like now, like there's no way that I could possibly get anything in the games industry, right? Unless there's like a really tiny company or something like that was desperate.
You could probably get. I'm not 100% on this. Don't anybody out there quote me, but I think you can still get a QA job, which is basically testing. You can't even do that now.
I've looked at QA jobs and it's like they want some ridiculous credentials. Really? Usually they want you to already have like testing experience. You know, it's that weird catch-22 thing where you need the 2 years of experience for the entry-level job and shit. But also they want you to have a degree and stuff like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because most of the QA job people that, like, there's the Castle Super Beast podcast. I know the one guy, he was like a big QA guy, and he gives a lot of stories from QA and stuff like that. And I know he was in college when he had his job. So yeah, and like that's weird. But they were in Montreal, which is where Ubisoft is, so that's where they worked. And he gives a lot of stories about that stuff. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, so it's just, because I think like, I was probably qualified enough. I would imagine I was qualified enough to do what Jim was doing, and then I do think that I have a mind for design, especially around that era where it was a lot less like the design part of it was a lot more of just like design and not necessarily like trying to jury rig builds and stuff on your own in order to show people what it was. Like it was a lot simpler back then. And like I said, Acclaim Austin closed. He lost his job, like literally like he wasn't even able to like get his stuff from his desk. It was that type of closure.
Yeah.
But who knows, right? Like, there was another guy there. I forget his name. He was a customer at the store. He got a job at Acclaim. Well, no, he already worked at Acclaim. And he's actually the one that did the demo for 100 Bullets when I was at E3. And then years later, I saw him on the stage when they, for a presentation, an E3 presentation, around the time that they unveiled Epic Mickey 2. But I don't know if you guys remember, there was also a DS game that was sort of like a spiritual successor to Castle of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. And he was the one that did the stage presentation. I was like, holy shit, like he's still in the industry. That's really awesome. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows where things would have gone if I had even had the idea of like, yeah, maybe I could do that. Like it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
Like Jim actually took me on a tour of the office and I was like, man, this is really cool. Right. But like for some reason I never thought like, hey, can you like put in a word for me? Cause like, you know, this, like, I think I could do this and I think I'd be good at it.
Right. Oh yeah. You'd probably be great at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know, like, this is a weird thing, but maybe you could ask indie game people that are developing their games QA test for them. I don't know. That could be a thing, but probably not. I don't know how that works. You probably have to know people that make games, and I don't know anybody that makes games.
You do, and at this point, it's like, I mean, I was 23 at the time, right? So that was like prime time. Like now,
dude,
like,
I would have never thought of that either. I would have never been like, hey, you should try to get me into this. I would have never thought of it.
Yeah. So. And I had a lot of connections because like I knew there were a lot of game developers that came into the store, like Jules Watcham, who he works for God, I forget the name of his company, but he's the one that did... Oh, man, I feel really stupid now. It's a really popular game on the Switch. Oh, Mutant Mudds. His company did Mutant Mudds, but also his older company, they did a couple of those really popular 3D horror games on the DS. Man, I feel bad for forgetting this stuff. He did some stuff that was very popular. Right. Trust me on this.
I believe you.
But yeah, like he was one, and then like a bunch of people from Acclaim, from EA. Oh no, sorry, not EA. Origin. Before it was EA Origin, it was just Origin, and like there were people who would come in from there. I don't think I was ever there when like Richard Garriott or Warren Spector came in, but they used to come into the store too, like back in the early days, because they were friends of the owner. Right. But yeah, it's like shit.
Yeah, I never had a chance to work in a game store. Maybe that's one of the big gaming regret I have is that I never worked in a game store, but I tried. I did try. I always applied, but they never would listen to me. And I even knew a guy that worked there. I was like, hey, you should get me in. I remember when I was like, hey, I'm of age to work here now. You should get me into this place. I remember the guy, he's the one who later started his own thing. The guy I was talking about earlier. I remember him telling me, you don't want to work here. Just trust me. Cause that was a GameSpot. He was like, you don't want to work here.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't want to, just trust me. You don't want to do it. It's gonna taint your image of everything. Just don't do it. I was like, for some reason, I trust you, and recent events have proven he may have been right in saying that. Anyway. Well,
Justin, if I owned a video game store, I would hire you in a heartbeat, and not just because of the podcast. Like,
right.
You would be like perfect.
I know.
Perfect for an indie video game store.
I even tried to get in his indie video game store because I would always go in there and be like, "Hey, have you guys heard of this game?" And they'd be like, "No, tell us about it." And I'd be like, "Well, it has this, this, and this." And I was like, "You should." But I remember he did have a smaller budget. Like he was basically running it himself, and I know he had like one other dude hired there, and that was pretty much it. It was just two of them. So like I was like, okay, I get it. He doesn't have the money. I can't really sit here and twist his arm to try to get in here. So I understand. But but my actual video gaming regret, and this one pisses me off. So here we fucking go. All right.
As he takes a drag on his cigarette.
Yeah, I'm putting it out right now so I can tell this story with more emphasis. Maybe not, maybe less emphasis. All right, here's what happened. So I would say, PlayStation 1, this was my sophomore year in high school. PlayStation 1 is pretty much over with at this point. This was 2002, 2001-ish, somewhere around in there. PlayStation 1 was pretty much over with. But you could still play those discs on PlayStation 2. I owned still had a good chunk of my PlayStation 1 library. I hung on to a lot of the games that I liked, all my RPG stuff. Like I love JRPGs. Those were the games I held on to all the time. I was like, I will never get rid of these games unless I absolutely had to, which I eventually absolutely had to. We touched on that earlier. But one game well, Final Fantasy VII obviously was my favorite, but one other game that I really, really liked and really adored was one that I bought just on a whim one time because I'd kind of heard like, bits and pieces here, and that was the original Suikoden. It was one of my favorite games. I loved it a whole lot. It's a shorter RPG, but I loved the like Pokemon collect 'em all aspect of it. I loved almost everything about the original Suikoden. I think I might actually have played through that more times than I've actually played through Final Fantasy VII. It's kind of a toss up, really. Just because it's shorter. It's like, it's kind of just like,
it's like 20 something hours.
Yeah, you can blaze through it. I know pretty much all the parts by heart by now. I can, just get through it in no time. But, so I held on to that. Really liked the game. One day, so I had this friend. His name was Brad. I'll call him out by fucking name. What ended up happening was, this was a guy who I talked to just about every day. Knew him very well. He would, I think he was a little bit older than me. He had a car, we'd drive places with him. He was a cool guy. He would stop at my house, just about every day. So I'd talk to him, at least once a day. Usually he would bring like a couple other people over that I was also friends with. We had a whole thing where like my house at that time was kind of a hub for people to just like hang out and do things. You can leave that to whatever mind devices you want. It's not, that sounds weird. Anyway, whatever. What ended up happening?
It's where you did the mission select. Like that's
there you go. Sure. Why not? We smoked a lot of pot. There you go. That's what we did. To solve the mystery right there. That is what we did in my sophomore year of high school. That is what we did in my house. Anyway, so one day, and this was a weird occurrence. I remember it's about 10 o'clock at night. I was like going to sleep because I had school in the morning. This guy just kind of rolled up. And he was like, hey, showed up out of the blue. Nobody ever showed up in my house this late. It was weird to begin with. And he shows up and I let him in. I know Brad. Brad's a good guy. I talk to him all the time. I don't mind him showing up this late. I mean, I was going to sleep. It's fine. No worries. He's like, hey, man. So I'm really bored. I'm sitting around my house. And I was wondering, hey, do you have any like games I could borrow? And I was like, yeah, I guess I don't mind loan. I see you every day. Sure, I'll loan you a game. He's like, yeah, just for, a couple days. I just want something to play. Like, I'm just really, really bored. I was like, okay, cool. And my game selling thing kicked in where I was like, okay, well, what kind of, what are you looking to play? He's like, I don't know. I'm looking to, I want something, that'll like take some time to get through. Like, I like RPGs a little bit. I was like, okay, all right. Hey, well, I got these. I was like, what do you have? He's like, well, I got a PlayStation 1. That's all I really got. Do you have any PlayStation 1 games? I was like, okay, all right. I got you. I got a pretty good selection here. What are you looking for? And he starts going through. He's like, what's this Suikoden game? I was like, oh, this game. Listen here. This game's cool. So you do all this stuff. You get the 108 Stars of Destiny. You build a little castle. It's a really cool game. I think you should play it. And nobody else knows that this game. Like, I'm the only one that knows Suikoden, so I'm really hyped that I get to show Suikoden to somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. I'm like, oh yeah. You should try this, man. Like, yeah, check it out. Take good care of it. It's one of my favorites. Please take care of it for me. Please don't let. He's like, oh, I got you, man. Don't worry about it. I'm just gonna borrow the game. I'll take it. Bring it right back to you in a couple days. No worries. Like after I get through it, or if I don't like it, or whatever. I was like, yeah. Just let me know, man. I see you all the time. You're cool. I usually don't lend games out to people because I'm really paranoid about shit. But in this case, I was like, I see this guy every day. I can track him down pretty easily. This is no big deal. Whatever. And that was the last day I ever seen that guy. After that man disappeared off the face of the fucking earth. I don't know what the hell shit he pulled on me or whatever, but man, he fucking disappeared. And I was like, at first I was like, I loaned him that game, and fuck, man, I really liked Suikoden. It wasn't really worth anything at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, but it wasn't Suikoden 2.
No,
even in 2001, like, neither of those were worth a lot of money. Like,
yeah, they weren't. They hadn't.
But if it was
skyrocketed
Suikoden 2, I'd be hella pissed right now.
Oh yeah, they hadn't skyrocketed yet. It was more like, but still, Suikoden, like, I know Suikoden 2 is worth more, and I know it's like more revered in people's hearts, but Suikoden 1 was more my favorite because that was the one that I played. So in my heart, that was more my favorite game. And like playing Suikoden 2 recently, I'm like, oh, I totally see why this one's better, and I get it. But at the same time, that in my heart, I still have like this reverence for this game. And like I said, that he disappeared, like gone. Nobody knew where he was. Like, this is a person that my entire friend circle knew and talked to all the time. And this man vanished. Like, wouldn't take phone calls, nothing. Nobody knew where he was, what he was doing. Just vanished with my fucking copy of Suikoden. And then like a year later or something, I was like, Suikoden's like worth a lot of money right now. Like, that would be really nice. I don't even want to sell it. I just want it. Like, what the fuck? And I remember like slowly over time just being like, why did I ever lend that game to him? Why did I do that? How did I not see this weird 10 o'clock at night visit, like, going horribly wrong? Like, why did I not see through this? And I was like, I'm really mad. I still am mad about it.
Justin, you selfish idiot.
Yeah.
Like, no. You have no idea. You think it's all about you and your Suikoden when really Brad is in pieces, buried out in the woods somewhere. Nobody ever thought to ask what happened to Brad.
Julian, the story's not over. Because I say that I didn't see Brad again. A couple years later, happened to run into him.
Okay.
Just hanging around, just with a couple people. I walk up to him and I say, hey man, how's it going? We're old friends. It's all good. And I go, hey man, wouldn't happen to have my old Suikoden game, would you? You remember when you came over to my house like at 10 o'clock at night? Because I never forgot. I never forgot, motherfucker. Like, hey, you got my copy of Suikoden? Where my, like, I started getting kind of, when I get mad, I get a certain tone to me. And
you went into your wrestling persona.
Yeah, I do. It's basically it. Like, that's me. Like, I start getting like, motherfucker, where my motherfucking Suikoden at? Like, I know you motherfucking got that shit. Like, I know you got this shit. Like, well, what are we doing here? Like, I know you came to my house and your ass disappeared. Where the fuck my shit at? And this guy was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And like smiling. Like, he had that smile of like, I know I did it, but fuck you. And I was like, never try. I remember like we walked away and my friend was like, oh, it's really good to see him again. I was like, fuck that guy. I don't ever want to talk to him again. If I see him on the streets, he's dead to me. Dead to me. Hate it. I was so mad.
Brad, you got a problem with Justin, you got a problem with me, and I suggest you let that marinate.
He's a lot bigger than me, so I couldn't take him. But but I think everybody else was like, that's really funny. And I'm like, no, it's not. The game was, I love that game. He stole it from me. It's bullshit. Oh,
but it's one thing if it was like Shadow Madness or Jade Cocoon, but it had to be Suikoden.
It had to be one of my favorites, one of my favorite JRPGs of all time that I played. And like, I printed out a list of the 108 Stars of Destiny, like on paper, so I could take them to my room and read them and go, okay, I have to be here at a certain time. I understand.
And now I'm Mitch Hedberg.
I printed out my own fucking strategy guide for that shit, and man, it's just depressing, man. I bought it on Vita. It's all good now. I don't care. I own the game. It's cool. I can play it whenever I want. I'm happy now, but at the same time, I still.
But Brad's on fucking warning.
Yeah, that shit, dude. Oh my god, I can't believe that though. Like, I remember after that day, I was like. After seeing him again, I was like, I will never lend a game out to anybody, like, ever. Like, and I never did. People have been like, hey, you got a lot of games, you should let me borrow them. I'm like, no. They'll ask every now and then, I've been like, hey, why won't you let anybody borrow it? Because I had my reasons.
Someone ruined it for everybody.
Yep, one man ruined it for everybody. I'm sorry, I don't trust you people anymore. I can't do it. But yeah, that was the thing that happened, and I live with that regret to the day I die that I didn't see through that fucking guy's.
It's just so weird though, because like especially like you're talking 2001, so it's like Suikoden's going for like $15.
Yeah,
and then it's like also then he just vanishes from like your entire circle of friends, and it's like that was the thing that you needed before you like took off, was like this cheap PS1 game that you could get at like any used store, like in tons of copies.
There might have been some other context that I don't remember as to why he wanted a PlayStation 1 copy, but I'm pretty sure I remember talking him into like, oh yeah, you should give this one a try. I remember that.
Yeah.
But like, still, like, it was just the principle. It's almost just the principle of it, you know?
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, I loaned you this thing and then you disappeared. What the fuck? Like, man, like if you would have been like, hey, I'm not coming back, I'd be like, okay, well, you ain't having this one. I'll let you can take one of these bullshit games.
You can take Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah, well, I had Legend of Dragoon. You could have had that shit. Yeah. That's a gaming regret. I owned and played Legend of Dragoon. I don't think I ever finished that game. That was not a good game.
I just bought it recently. It seems fine. That's it. It's like, it's fine. Like, I remember being like, yeah, this game's okay, but like, there's something wrong with it. Like, I don't know what it's missing something. I don't know. It's been many years since I think I own that on Vita too, and been meaning to give it another shot just for funsies, but I haven't gotten around to it. But anyway, Julian, what is your number one gaming regret? Yours are a lot better than mine. Yeah, well, my number one was actually like, you know, the fact that I didn't keep all of my games from my Game Fellas days. But, but this last one I'll talk about. There's a little bit of setup that has to go with this, and I should say I told this story on the Arcade Memories podcast from our friend Gabe, who was on a couple years ago. Was it a couple years ago? I think so.
No, that was when I was a full-time member, so it was about a year ago.
Okay, yeah. Man, time flies. Yeah.
We should get him on again. He was cool.
Yeah, we should. Gabe is awesome, and I love his podcast, and you should definitely go listen to it, and then go give him some stuff, because he said it might be the last episode because he doesn't have enough submissions, so get on that shit, because it is one of my favorite, like, when it pops up in my feed, I'm like, oh, Arcade Memories!
I should definitely do that, yeah.
But so I told him that I was going to give him the exclusive on this story, but now that it's out there, I can tell it on here. So back when Mortal Kombat 3 came out, I had the internet, and I would comb the internet for Mortal Kombat 3 moves, and I would actually type them up into a nice, neat Word document. And I would actually create like basically like mini strat guides for Mortal Kombat 3. And you got to remember that at this time, the game was constantly evolving. So like inputs would change and fatalities would change and stuff like that. So I was constantly revising it. I made it like nice and pretty and everything. And I would sell it at the arcade for like $5, which fueled my Mortal Kombat 3 addiction.
There you go.
But I was in AOL chat rooms at the time. And I was in this one chat room, and someone said that like occasionally Ed Boon would come into this particular chat room and just like throw in like new fatalities or combat codes and stuff like that. I was like, really? I was like, whatever. And then I don't know if it was the same day or if it was like another day, but like someone comes into the room, drops these combat codes and leaves. Right. Oh. And someone was like, yeah, that was Ed Boon. Like he does that every once in a while. And I was like, whoa, you know, like that's amazing. And I never got a chance to test those combat codes, 'cause I never really messed with those. Like it's just when you're playing versus and, you know, like basically you need both players to agree to input the code. Right. So it's like, whatever. Yeah. But flash forward to E3 2010. I'm sitting in the Mortal Kombat 9, demonstration presented by Ed Boon. Nice. I'm just watching, you know, them play through the game and stuff, because this was like the first E3 after the Santa Monica shit, where it was like, and I realized, oh, you don't really get to play a lot of the games anymore. It's a lot of just like hands-off demonstrations. But Ed Boon, and I also got an awesome like Mortal Kombat Fatality shirt that said Fatality on the front, and it was like the rib cage, and like the heart was like pulled out of the rib cage and was like on the floor of the shirt. I don't know how my mom would like, cause I don't know how she let me like walk around with that, but like I love that shirt. But I was so like, he was right there, and I so very badly wanted to ask him, hey, like back around the Mortal Kombat 3 era, were you like just like kind of hanging out in like AOL chat rooms and dropping like fatalities and moves and stuff like that? But it was Ed fucking Boon, dude. Like,
yeah, it's tough.
And he was, he was working, and I mean, even though like there was a little bit of downtime between when ours ended and the next one came in, I just didn't feel comfortable like going up and asking him that, and I wish I had. That was also, but I did do a lot of other stuff at E3, so I kind of made up for it. Like, I went up to Ryan Davis and Vinny Caravella from Giant Bomb and talked to them, and
nice.
I talked to Jay Frechette, who used to be at 1UP, and I talked to, I talked to James Milkey, formerly from EGM, and also, I think I told the story that, like, the person who took our photo is Tetsuya Mizuguchi, the person who made Rez. So,
right.
A lot of neat stuff like that, but yeah, I do regret that. I also regret not saying anything to Reggie Fils-Aimé because I was like 2 feet away from him. I did talk to Ted Price from Insomniac though for a nice little bit of time.
That's good.
That was fun. Yeah, that was a good E3 just because I was very specifically trying to speak up and like try to like talk to people if there was like a moment, like like I did that a little bit in the old days. Like I didn't say anything. Well, obviously he speaks Japanese. I didn't say anything to Miyamoto. I just like waved at him when he came to shake another guy's hand that was with me. Right. But I did like introduce myself and say hello to Phil Lamar at my second E3.
Nice.
Which is really cool because I was like, man, I've been a big fan of yours since like day one of Mad TV. And he's like, oh, cool. What's your name? I was like, Julian. He's like, I'm Phil. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know. Real nice guy.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah. Sometimes when it comes to celebrities, you just have to remember that they is just people too, and half the time they're just happy to talk to you. Sometimes they're not, and you just have to kind of read the room a little bit as to whether or not they want to talk to you. And sometimes it's best like, I'll keep my distance from them. But most of the like music people that I've met that I've like, admired for making music, which is not, this isn't a music podcast, but like just comparing things, but like most of them have been pretty awesome. So I've never really had a bad encounter with one, we'll say.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's all that we've got, right? Unless you had any stragglers.
That's it for me. Like I said, I was digging deep for that stuff. So,
all right. Well, we actually got a lot of stuff this episode. We're going to start with Facebook. First off, I have one from our regular contributor Adam Bradbury, and then like I said last episode, I've been kind of like going to different, or 2 episodes ago, I've been trying to go to different like Facebook gaming groups that I'm part of and trying to, ask questions there for Stage Select and Cage Match just to see if we get new people checking us out. So if you're coming to us from Square Roots, thank you, and hope you guys like the show, because I did go to the Square Roots Facebook group this time. We got a lot of stuff from them because they're a very engaged Facebook group. So
I'm part of them too, and I always forget. I just don't get on Facebook like I used to.
Yeah. I think I tagged you in something, and I don't know if you even responded.
I don't even know either. I half the time when it says Facebook and a notification, I'm just like, click that off, don't care. Cause I'm real bad.
Basically Xavier Krieger, cause I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he said that he beat like Persona 5 in like 100 hours in like a week. And I was like, are you Justin Ham?
Yeah, that sounds right. Right.
But anyway, Adam says, I remember when we got the PlayStation. We traded 3 of our Super Nintendo games for a PlayStation game. We were choosing between a fighting game called Killing Zone and Resident Evil 1. I pushed for Killing Zone, and it turned out to be a pretty sucky fighting game with only one character I liked. Also, I miss those Super Nintendo games. And yeah, that's always, sometimes you just roll those dice and it comes up bad, like.
Man, I don't even remember Killing Zone. I played a lot of PlayStation 1 fighting games too.
I remembered the name, but I had to look it up, and it's one that I actually have not played, but I remember the case, obviously. Because I got it confused with another fighting game around the same time. Again, the name I don't remember. That one was based on D&D. and I actually reviewed that for my PlayStation fanzine when I was in high school. It's also terrible, but not as bad as Killing Zone. Killing Zone looked like straight trash.
Oh yeah, I believe it. I believe it. I'm so sorry that happened to you, that you passed up on Resident Evil, but at the same time, Resident Evil's scary, so, you know. It's not as scary now, but it's kind of funny now, but.
No, it was pretty scary back in the day, though.
Back in the day? Oh yeah, I was terrified of it.
All right, Justin. Well, we'll go ahead and jump into these from the Square Roots group. Do you want to grab the one from Justin Meyer?
Okay, Justin Meyer. That is a good name. He said, why did I say that? That's stupid. He says, I regret using walkthroughs so much on Persona 5. I just didn't want to miss any opportunities, get my full value from every game day, and I figured I'd do an all-natural run afterwards, but the game is so long, I have had no desire to run it a second time. And
must be something about Justin's and this inability to play Persona games without freaking out about the schedule.
Dude, I don't think that you should regret that, Justin. I'm just going to tell you that right now, because I played Persona 5 when it came out and there were no guides, and I felt super overwhelmed by it because, I felt like I was missing out on stuff, and it's exactly like he says. That game is so long, I don't want to miss anything. I feel like I'm fucking up everything. So, I actually want to go back in now that there is a guide. I'm thinking about picking up Royale and playing that, and because I don't know any of the expanded content or anything like that, so it'll all be new to me, except maybe I played it to the second dungeon, and then I started getting that feeling like I'm missing stuff. I'm going to fuck everything up. I'm very overwhelmed. I get that way with Persona games all the time. I don't know what it is about them. They're great games. I can sit here and acknowledge I think they're awesome, but yeah, I don't think you should regret that. I think if you feel comfortable playing with a guide, then play with the guide and don't miss the things. Unless you play with a really spoiler filled one, then maybe. The old Final Fantasy VII Prima guide was notoriously bad for that. They would tell you exactly what happened in the story in that one, I remember. But, it is what it is. But I don't think you should regret that, Justin. I think you're doing it right, buddy. But I mean, that's just me.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up, we have Josh Bennett, who says, I regret not having finished Skies of Arcadia. I played through a large portion of it, not sure how far percentage-wise. Then a lot of life happened, and by the time I could pick it back up, it was more than a year later, and I couldn't remember the context of anything going on in the story, so I just moved on. Maybe now would be a good time to start over. I regret that as well, and almost the exact same thing happened to me. I played it on the Dreamcast, and I got pretty darn far into it, and then other games came out or something like that, or I might have ended up trading in my Dreamcast because I was like, oh, this thing is done, isn't it? That sucks.
Oh, was Skies of Arcadia at the end of the Dreamcast lifespan?
It was late-ish. It wasn't like one of the last games, but I mean, it was... Yeah, so I'm not sure if that was what happened or if it was just other games came out for PS... Because, I mean, it still would have been PS1 at this point.
Right.
And maybe those just, took me away from it, but yeah, I find it very hard to go back to an RPG if I've been gone from it for more than a few months.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I've started completely over every time I have to restart an RPG because I'm I don't even remember where I was at or what I was doing. So yeah, nope, totally get it. I never ended up playing Skies of Arcadia. I always looked at Dreamcast as not having any RPGs, and so I remember playing. Yeah, it didn't have many. It was a fighting game system to me. It had great fighting games. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast was fantastic. And
God, I had all those too.
Oh, I did too, Julian. I did too. And they were great. Yeah, that's, again, yeah. I don't know what happened to them, but
hope they're in a good home now.
Yeah, hopefully somebody has them, and they're probably destroyed in a gutter somewhere. Oh, well. After that, we have, all right, I'm going to butcher this person's name, and I am very sorry in advance, but I will try. Tonin?
That's what I would say.
Okay, Tonin.
DeQuester. That is a cool name.
You have a very awesome name, and I am jealous of it. But they say, I regret putting so much time into trying to enjoy Magic the Gathering Arena as a free player. If you aren't paying the meta or playing the meta, which costs $100, you lose all the time. I also regret not playing multiplayer online games like Destiny 2 until I was 34 years old. I always wanted, or I always kind of wanted to enjoy anything that involves pretending to be a space wizard as a solo activity, but now I'm part of a small, chill clan and I play almost every day. Well, that's good.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. As for the Magic the Gathering Arena thing, I totally get that. That game, Magic the Gathering in general, so here's the thing. Magic the Gathering in general, if you want to play at any sort of competitive level, will cost you money. Like, even on Arena, you're gonna have to invest, and that's the sad part about it. What's kind of surprising here, and a thing that I learned just by reading this, I always got the impression, now, when I wasn't paying any money and was playing it as a free game, it was in alpha stage. I somehow found out about it, and you had to email Wizards of the Coast to get them to send you a code to download the game, and it was like highly tested, like highly test version of the game. Like, they was very, very alpha. But it worked. And they had like a lot of older cards and stuff that like isn't even in the game anymore. It's somewhere in there, probably somewhere, but who knows where. And I remember being like, all right, I'm not going to invest any money in it because obviously this is alpha. And I remember, but you could if you wanted to. There was a thing you could buy packs and stuff, just like you can on it now. And I'm really surprised because I always thought that their matchmaking meant that if you, basically, if you didn't have a very good deck, it would match you up based on deck strength. Like, okay, like, this guy's just playing like a mono whatever deck. He has like a lot of not great cards or whatever. It's, it's fun, but whatever. And they'd match you up with somebody who had a deck like that. But apparently they don't. And if they're putting you in the ring with killers, that is not cool. That is not okay. Like, you're not going to have a good time. Yeah. Like, I play a lot of really dumb things on Magic the Gathering Arena, and like I tend to like put money in there and like kind of buy the cards and do what I want and have a good time that way. And I just play a lot of stupid things. Magic the Gathering is always a meta game, no matter if you're playing paper or whatever. Like, there's times where like I would go to Friday Night Magic and there would be a dude who was just an absolute killer and would just have whatever deck he's seen win the Pro Tour that week. And you're just like, well, I guess I lose this round because fuck. I will never again forget the time where I played against Bant Hexproof. It was the least fun Magic the Gathering experience I've ever had in my life. I'm sure Matt Jorgensen remembers that time in Return to Ravnica Standard. It was not okay. It was not okay. Oh, fuck Invisible Stalker so hard.
Okay. All right. I think we need. I'm gonna cut you there because we're going too far into the weeds on Magic again.
If you learn anything about Magic the Gathering, fuck Invisible Stalker. They would never make that mistake again. That was too much. Oh my god, that card.
All right. Well, last but certainly not least, over from the Square Roots Facebook group for smart, cool, and very attractive people, I think is the full name. We have Devin Sloan, who says, regret. Lost via Domus. I picked that game up at $60 as a huge Lost fan. It wasn't worth $5. I got into Lost way late. But I almost thought about picking that game up just because I knew that it like kind of filled in some gaps between a couple of the seasons. But I didn't because I know the cardinal rule with like television tie-in games, other than Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the original Xbox. That's the only one that's any damn good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was, around that time, anything licensed was pretty much trash. So that makes sense. Are we over on Pixelbit now, Julian?
We are, sir. We're moving on to Pixelbit.
All right. We are on Pixelbit.com. You can go over to Pixelbit.com and you can sign up for a membership there. I don't think it's that hard. I don't know. I haven't done it in a while. I've been a member for a long time. And if you do that, your comment may sound like this, and I'll give you a big preamble before it happens. It could sound like our man San Andreas here. And he says, my biggest gaming regret was asking for Revolution X for the Super NES for my birthday. I got it. It was an awful port. In retrospect, the arcade source material wasn't really an enduring classic, but hey, it was Aerosmith. Years later, I bought a used copy of the PS1 game for $5.
What, again?
It was serviceable, and I would have been reasonably satisfied with it had I owned a PS1 in early 1996. Knowing then what I know now, I probably would have asked for Chrono Trigger. Okay,
well,
San Andreas.
Music is the weapon.
Music is the weapon.
We can agree on that.
What was it? God, what was the line I always used to repeat from that stupid game because it was hilarious? You get to like the Revolution X or Generation X is in effect or something like that. I can't remember. It was bad. There's a part where you fight a bad guy and he says that to you, and it's really stupid. And they interrupt the Aerosmith concert. Listen, San Andreas. I had that port of Revolution X as well. I owned that game, and I can agree that it was very bad. I think I owned it because I was a really dumb kid, and I think my mom was a big fan of Aerosmith, so I told her there was an Aerosmith video game, and she was like, oh yeah, we'll get that for you. And I think I played the Saturn version of the game first with a friend of mine. And I was like, this is okay. It's not bad. We had a good time because we were playing it 2-player, and I remember getting it on the Super Nintendo, and it was fucking terrible. I can't believe they ported that thing to that. So yeah, I feel your pain. I know it, but I feel better that you stopped a bunch of kids from going on a bus to somewhere. I can't remember man, I really need to look up the story beats for Revolution X.
No, you really don't.
No,
you really
don't. I think that's a thing I need to quote in my normal life more often is what I'm saying. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, I mean, we kid, but like, if I saw Revolution X arcade cabinet, I would totally play it because the arcade cabinet was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool. Fucking Steven Tyler tosses you the keys to his car, and it's a sweet, like, Lamborghini. Come on, man. It's great. It's not. Aerosmith sucks.
Well, I won't go that far. You and Angelo can go in that corner.
They're not good. They're not good. The only person who thinks they're good is the guy from Team Ninja, and he put them in all the DOA games at the beginning. Do you remember that?
Yes, and I was actually like 10 feet away from him at that E3 also. Like, I have a picture of him from behind with a leather jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, also he knows Japanese. I don't think he speaks English, but I almost went up for a picture with him, but I was like, no, I just want this picture of him from behind where you can see the whole jacket.
Yep.
It's a good picture, too.
Oh,
he's just kind of like, his hands are on his hips, and he's kind of looking up, like, I think at the schedule for the day. It was like before the doors opened.
Yeah, that guy's a problem. He's a huge problem. He was funny at the time, but then it later came out that he was a problem. But anyway, let's move on.
We'll move on to Superstep, who has a few. He says, number 3, buying games I don't really ever play. It's actually a lower percentage of my library than you might think, but every time I see one, I'm like, oh, you idiot. That $250 could have been chicken nuggets. I have a little bit of this, but like, I buy a lot of games now just like for the collection, like Justin was doing, where I'm just like, oh yeah, like this is a game that I kind of remember being like so-so. Yep. Like a lot of it is just like, I kind of want not necessarily like quantity over quality, but I'm at that point where I'll pick up games that seem interesting, but not necessarily great, right? Like I have a lot of B titles in my collection, but one thing that I do along these lines that is really bad is buying a game at launch and then not playing it for like 2 years when I could have bought it for like $10 later when I actually do feel like playing it.
Yeah, that seems like a bigger issue. Yeah, if you pick it up for like $250 and who cares if it sits on a shelf? Sure, you could have bought chicken nuggets, but I mean, there will always be chicken nuggets. You may never find the copy of that weird $2.50 game that you found, that copy of Burger King Sneak King. You may never find it again. So, hey.
I've still got all 3 of my Burger King games from when they came out.
I don't think I ever got any of those.
Let's see. Next up, Superstep says, allowing Electronic Gaming Monthly to make their last issue that awful zoomed-in low-res image of Wolverine. I wasn't a staffer for them, but I still felt guilty by proxy somehow. I regret that they did that to themselves, but I also regret allowing that amount of disrespect in my mailbox that month. Hey, man. Don't kick EGM when they were down. That era of EGM was some of the best content they were ever producing, and I was so upset when it ended. And also, that Wolverine game's pretty good. So, there
you go.
I mean, sometimes they do that. Like, I still remember that issue of Next Gen where they actually put, one of the Unreal, monsters on the cover, this is actual game graphics. And it, looked like shit. But, I mean, it was good for the time, but it still was, all, zoomed in and, very textured and stuff. It is what it is. I think Milky actually talked about that cover in a podcast, after the fact. It kind of wasn't, there was some reason that it happened. It was some sort of, last minute rush job or something like that. The art that they were supposed to get didn't arrive in time or something like that. I forget what there's an actual story behind why that last cover of the original EGM looks the way it looks. I think I have 3 copies of that issue.
I believe it. Yeah, no, I always think my favorite cover art for magazines was the old PSM covers, because they were all this really interesting fan art stuff that they would hand select. It was fan art, but it was fan art done by comic book artists. Right. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really awesome. I used to love those magazines just for the cover art. I wish I still had there's a gaming regret. I wish I still had all my old gaming magazines. It would have been awesome just to look through and just know that I had them.
I haven't added to it in years, but I've been trying to get a full run of the original EGM. Yeah. And I have complete years for I think 8 or 9 of them, so I'm almost halfway there. But the first couple years are hella expensive. First year you're talking about $30 per issue, where I was buying entire 12 issue years for less than that. Right. So
wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I won't be doing anytime soon then.
I haven't continued it because they are so bulky and I don't have anywhere to put them.
Yeah, that's another thing.
It's another thing. It's if I ever have a house that I own, then I will continue this and I will have them on a nice, organized shelf where I can, because they are very fun to read, man. It's fun to read those 90s EGMs where fucking Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter are on every cover almost for an entire year. And then also every article has a bajillion exclamation marks after every sentence.
Right.
They were so excited back then. Last up from Superstep, he says, never beating a turn-based RPG with a strategy guide, because now I'll have to for Yakuza 7 and have no practice. I kind of want to do this with Phantasy Star 4 on my Genesis Mini, because I do like the vibe of that game from what I've played. Would have been easier to do this with Pokemon or Paper Mario when I played those, though. I actually own the strat guide for Paper Mario simply because I liked the game's story/humor and wanted to see some of the spoiler content. That's not really a skill that you need. It's more,
yeah.
I think you'll be fine.
Most RPGs these days, you don't really need a strategy guide to get through them. We've kind of come a long way from things being so far out of the way. Like Final Fantasy VII, had a weird Easter egg that you had to go real out of the way to even know about and stuff like that. But most game developers now want you to see everything without the strategy guide. You'll be fine. I don't think you got to worry about that. If you want the strategy guide, go nuts. But I think you'll do okay. You'll get used to it. I believe in you, Superstep. I believe you can do this.
Yeah, and honestly, from what I've seen, it's a Yakuza game up until the combat, then the combat. It's turn-based, but it's also It's turn-based in the vein of South Park: The Stick of Truth, where it's kind of a simple but fun combat, and so I think you'll be fine.
You're not playing Octopath Traveler where you have to really sit down and plan out moves and stuff. I think you'll be okay. I could be very wrong, but I think you'll be okay, man.
Yeah,
I believe
no fucking stagger mechanics in Like a Dragon.
No stagger mechanics. Never mind. I'll get into that later. After that, we have Casey Curran, and he has some things to say about video games. There's my catchphrase. I remembered it. Number 3, he says, not buying Donkey Kong Jungle Beat for GameCube with the bongos for $3 since this game will never get a proper re-release. And yeah, anything with a peripheral nowadays probably never going to see the light of day again. I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough.
I wasn't interested in it at the time, but I regret not buying the Samba de Amigo maracas when I had the chance.
Yeah.
Just because, like, good luck finding those now.
Yeah, I imagine that's pretty tough. Yeah, anything with peripherals is going to be tough to find going forward. Like, I don't regret losing all my plastic instruments from Rock Band because they took up a lot of space, and I don't really want to play Rock Band again, but at the same time, there might come a time where those are worth a lot of money. I don't know. After that, he says, number 2, playing Mass Effect Andromeda, my face is tired. I'm sorry that you did that. I don't know how far you got, but it was not a very good game. So yeah.
I almost thought about going back to finish it, but then when it came out that like they put the series on hold, and they also said that they're not going to revisit that story, I was like, okay, there's really no point.
There's no point.
Yeah.
Is really no point. I checked it out and was like, okay, I get it. There was something. I think I got through like the intro planet and was like, yeah, I don't know where this is going. I just don't care. There's something about it that I just...
There's a really good game in there. That's one for a future stage select. Because we've done something similar to it before, but there is a really good game in there, and I'm surprised that they didn't find it because it seemed to me to be so obvious that you choose your Pathfinder from any of the ships, and so then you get to choose a Quarian or a Krogan or a Turian, cool. Right? Like Dragon Age Origins, or I mean, they even did it for Dragon Age 3. Like, I don't understand why they didn't see that was the obvious way to go.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, instead of being like the chosen child of the leader of this particular expedition, just be a Pathfinder from one of the ships.
Dude, it's I don't blame that on BioWare, really. I blame it on EA. Like, EA wants, it has to look so much like the original Mass Effect that we can't do that thing or what. I just blame that. I believe it probably had something to do with that. Maybe I doubt that was in their plans. They probably just didn't think of it. But at the same time, that game was a mess. So that was a mess. And it was a mess to play. But anyway, his number 1. He says, playing Assassin's Creed 3 for 8 hours straight. I saw that I would get more money if I traded it in before Black Friday. I needed to see how the series would end. Desmond's arc, even though I hated that character because I spent 5 games with the guy, and after enduring the game's awful missions, buggy world, and unsatisfying mechanics, Connor's story ends with him sharing a beer with a villain in the middle of the woods before stabbing him, and Desmond's given a moral choice in a series that has never had them before. Then the character picks to let the villain win for you.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed 3 was a mess. That game dropped the ball super hard. It's funny because Assassin's Creed 2, so I remember like going, this was when I lived in Utah, at some point I got really bored and the Assassin's Creed games were getting cheap, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start picking these up. I picked up Assassin's Creed 2. It was like, I think it was like a $20 game or something. It was pretty cheap. I remember playing through. I was like, man, this seems like it's going somewhere. And then I looked up Assassin's Creed 3, and I was like, I remember I do the thing where like I was like, well, let me watch it a little bit, and then if it seems like it's really interesting, I'll keep going. And I watched it for a little bit. I was like, something's off about this one, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why, but and I remember watching the rest of it because I was like, I got to see how it plays out at least, and yeah, it didn't seem very good. So yeah. I'm sorry that you did that as well.
8 hours, an 8 hours straight stint for that is pretty rough though too, especially if you're not liking it. We'll get into it because
I did something like that pretty recently. So
yeah. Next up, we have Bookie, who says, I think one of my greatest gaming regrets would have to be buying Pokemon Snap brand new. I actually liked the game a fair bit, but in 2 hours, aka that afternoon, I had beaten everything, and then about an hour after that, the next morning, I had 100%ed it. I believe was a full MSRP that hurt poor young Bookie a lot. I'm not sure if that was the only game I got that year, but it very well could have been. Ouch. That is exactly the reason why we had stacks upon stacks of Pokemon Snap in my store. Yeah. It's not that it wasn't a popular game. It's just that people played the hell out of it and then got rid of it. Also, it's funny because, Justin, you had brought up Final Fantasy VII, the original PS1 copy. I will never not be surprised at how much that game goes for used, because I remember having piles upon piles upon piles of it at our store. We were selling it for like $10 at one point, and it couldn't get them out of the store. Yeah, and it just goes to show you like how super successful it was, and then two, how many people went back and then wanted it, after a few years of nostalgia kicked in.
Years later, exactly. Yeah, oh man, I remember so I did the right thing here, Bookie, and I'm sorry, I'm not calling you out on this. I totally understand why you would buy Pokemon Snap as a kid. I rented that game, and I remember, I pretty much had done everything there was to do, and I was like, well, I was bored with it by the time it was time to take it back. So that, I feel bad for you. I'm very sorry, Bookie. That sucks. I wish you would have. And
N64 games were like $10 to $15 higher than a PlayStation game. Yeah,
they were always at least 60.
At least, and sometimes as high as 80, depending on the game.
Yeah, depending on the game. Yeah. Oh man, N64, what a system. not my favorite one.
No,
I know I'll get a lot of heat for that. I don't really care. It's all right. It's fine. Anyway. Up next, we have my boy Extrian. He has some opinions on pizza places, but he decided not to share any of those.
But real quick, would you read his preamble? Because I am not above reading compliments to the show.
I will have to go to the preamble real quick. Let me just do that real quick. No big deal. Let's vamp here for just a second, because we'll have to. Yep.
We're going. I don't like Twilight vampires. I still really love Buffy vampires. True Blood vampires are really good. I'm down with Blood Rain as a vampire.
Okay, all right, listen.
I like Vamp from Metal Gear. If you want to talk about vamping, he's a good vamp.
Hey, was he a vampire, though?
I mean, he was like a genetic vampire.
Yeah.
Like, he was like a genetically engineered.
Okay, but Twilight vampires. Okay, listen, I don't like them either. I don't like the shimmery stuff, but Ashley Greene was pretty hot. I'm just going to throw that out there. She was pretty, I was digging her. She was the short-haired one. She was Alice.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
She was pretty hot. I dig her. Anyway, I believe I found what I was looking for. Yep. Okay, he says, been so busy lately, but wanted to get my comment in. You guys are doing a great job, and I really appreciate you guys making this podcast. It really makes my day when I have a podcast to look forward to when I work. Same goes for clickbait. Yes, we love you too, Extrian.
Thank you very much.
Sam will give you shit about your pizza place selections, but I totally get it. Yeah, hey man, everybody has an opinion. It's all good. Here's the difference. We have a microphone that makes us. That's the difference.
And also, like, especially for people who are still having to work and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy if we can, make that a little bit better in any, small way. Like I said a couple episodes ago, like. That I don't know if I could make it through right now without all the podcasts that I listen to when I'm working.
Oh yeah, so. These are rough times, man. So yeah, I'm happy if we're making you out there listening happy. So keep listening, and we'll try our best. Anyway, his stage select reads something like this. He says his number 3, not getting an SNES. I was given a Sega when I was around 5. I never ventured into SNES, but I wish I had. I have always taken good care of my stuff, so still have all my Genesis games. I wish I had a collection of amazing Super Nintendo games in my collection. Also, that said, I love my Sega days, and I'm glad I had one.
Okay, I will say one thing, though, Extrian, is that it's a lot easier to find Super Nintendo games than it is Genesis games, especially like the good Genesis games.
Really?
So you might be in a better boat than a lot of us, because especially with like the way that Nintendo, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets re-released and stuff like that, but like, I don't know what games you had as a kid and stuff like that, but stuff like Castlevania Bloodlines, Contra Hardcore, Dynamite Heady, Ristar, like those types of games, like, yeah, you don't find them, and when you do find them, like, they're not in good condition, like, it's usually just the cartridge and stuff, so, if you took good care of them and you've still got them all, like, that's pretty good.
Tops, man. Yeah, you're doing all right. Yeah, I wouldn't be too sad about that. Yeah, it's funny because when I had a Super Nintendo, I think I was like the only one in my friend group who had one. Everybody else had a Genesis.
Really?
And so, yeah, it was really weird. And I always like felt left out because everybody else had this thing. And I was like, but I have the other thing. But I loved my Super Nintendo, but nobody else had it. Everybody had a Genesis. I don't know why they had. I think it had a lot to do with Mortal Kombat because Mortal Kombat had the blood code. That was it. Like we were dumb kids. What do we know?
Yeah. Even though Mortal Kombat 1 is a far better game on the Super Nintendo. I'm sorry. It may not have the blood, but it looks, sounds, and plays way better.
Man, it's funny because I would always play those Genesis games. I was like, I don't really think this is that good. It's always kind of weird. I don't know. That's just me. Like, people were loving Sonic. I was like, I don't know. Mario seems a little bit better to me, but maybe I'm nuts. After that, number 2, he says, overbuying. I'm extremely guilty of buying more games than I'll ever play. I've gotten better as I get older in that I don't buy as many games day one unless I know I will play them. The others I wait for sales on, but I've learned that if I don't buy it day one, then it probably means I don't really, really want to play it. And it sits there for months, then years, and then maybe I pop it in for one day and never again. It's nice having a decent collection, but I need to stop buying things just because they are less than $10. I mean, it depends.
If they're less than $10, that's a, like we said with Super Set, that's a different thing. Like but if you're doing like me where you're buying like full price games day one and then not touching them, then that's a bigger problem. Yeah. That's why, like I said, this year, like I made a list. There's 5 games that I'm buying for full price at launch. And then anything else that I want to play this year, I'm waiting for sales or Game Pass. And I'm usually the type who likes to support developers and stuff like that with my money, if it's something that I'm passionate about, but at the same time, it's like I need to start saving some damn money, especially because I want to buy a console at the end of the year if they come out.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Roll the dice on that one, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you on that pretty much 100%. Because I buy stuff that I like maybe will like. Yeah. Like, I bought Neo 2 and I was like, maybe I'll like it. Maybe this will be a Souls game I'll get into because of the character creator. And I played like the first section and I was like,
yeah, we need to talk to you about the way that you like determine game purchases. Cause like, really, Justin? Like, you didn't even want to play that game, and then you paid $60 for it, and you played it for like an afternoon.
That was one where, like, I think that was the one I was like, I am gonna stop doing that exact thing because this was most of the time I'll buy a game and play all the way through it. That was when I was like, I probably shouldn't have done that. But that's a gaming regret, but a recent one. His number 1 here, he says, not taking pictures in Minecraft. I'm not a photo mode person, but I regret not taking pictures in Minecraft. I made an underground bunker after months of playing. I had never played Minecraft, but was getting hooked. My tiny bed and workshop in a cave became a bona fide bunker that would make any crazy Doom prepper satisfied. It isn't amazing compared to some of those Minecraft experts, but I'm still extremely proud of what I accomplished. I wish I had cataloged the transition along the way so I could remember exactly where I started and look back at each step along the way. I am also very, very guilty of this. I don't take screenshots of almost anything I do. I'm really bad about it. Now, here recently, I've been playing a lot of Skyrim. I have a little bit I'll share about that later because it's kind of funny. Julian, I'm trying so hard to take screenshots right now. I'm trying so hard. I even looked into like getting a poser mod and stuff like that so I could like make my character look cool. And I got, I'll get into it later. But yeah, man, I'm really guilty about not taking screenshots. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just don't think about it when I'm playing a game. Like, it's just not a thing that I really care about too much. Like, there's been a lot of controversy, I don't know if it's controversy, but like about the share button still being on the PlayStation 4, and I'm like, yeah, I never use the share button.
Why?
On PlayStation
Why is there
4.
controversy about it? Like,
I don't know. I heard somebody. I don't know if it's controversy or people were like, oh no, it's just one podcast I listened to. They're like, man, I can't believe they still have the share button on the PlayStation 4. I don't ever use it. And I was like, yeah, I don't ever use it either.
A lot of people do though. Like I use
know
it all
a lot
the time,
of people do.
And that's the thing is that I love taking screenshots. I did it even before there was like share buttons when I played like Final Fantasy XI. And that is a regret that this made me remember is that I regret not backing up my Final Fantasy XI pictures from like an older computer because those are gone. I think I can find a handful of them if I go back into my old live journal and dig through it. But I only have like 3 or 4 pictures from Final Fantasy XI, and I took so many. And then, like, and that's the thing is that I play most of my stuff on Xbox One, and it is so clunky to take screenshots on that I just don't do it very often. It's even worse if you want to like upload clips. And it's so much easier on the PS4 because that's what I've been doing with Remake is that I haven't uploaded. I've been uploading clips that have like let people know what I think about the game because every once in a while Cloud will say stuff that perfectly encapsulates my thoughts on the overall game, but we'll get to that.
I had a few moments with that game where I almost used the share button. Here's the thing though about the share button. I sometimes wish it was the select button, and I wish there was maybe like a kind of alt fire mode for one of the buttons where I could like maybe double tap a button and then it would screenshot it for me, or if like I double tap the middle button, then it would like go into the share mode. Like I feel like there's a workaround here that like I don't know. If I'm okay, I don't know.
I mean, that's the way the Xbox does it, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
You have to, like, hold down the button.
See, I like that. Because you just press the middle button, and it goes, hey, do you want to take a screenshot? I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to take a screenshot of. That's fine. I enjoy that because I still have my select button. Like, to me, my brain enjoys that button being there. Like, not being... Yeah, I don't know. It's an extra button.
I think the solution for that is the way that they're doing it on the Xbox Series X, where it's like, no, there's just now a share button in addition to the other 3 buttons.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, or just add a button. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I would like a select button, please. Just that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. Well, last but not least, over on Pixelbit, we have Jamie Alston, who says, back in 2013, my wife and I were about to move to a smaller place, and I needed to drastically scale back my collection. Not only did I sell off most of my game systems, but in most cases, I also sold all the games for those systems too. This would lead me to making 3 mistakes that some part of me will regret forever. Musha for Sega Genesis. I originally purchased a loose cartridge of this game sometime in the earlier mid-2000s from a mom-and-pop used game store for only $3. Looking back on it now, I suppose the store owner wasn't aware of how much the game was actually worth, and neither was I. You can imagine how much I kicked myself when I decided to try and repurchase it a couple of years later after I decided to purchase a Sega Genesis again. I didn't know just what a treasure I had. Hold on, I'm going to do my patented look up on eBay because I know it's crazy, but I don't remember how crazy it is.
I was going to say, I like how you went old school Chris Jericho there for a second. You will never forget the name of Chris Jericho again. That was pretty cool.
Did I say again? Did I really do that?
You did. You did, and then you corrected it. But I was like, you shouldn't have corrected it. You should have owned it. It was great. But I've heard the name of that.
You're on the list.
What's that? Well, okay, that's fine. I'm sure I've been on it before. I might have been at one show where he put the entire audience on the list. I'm not even sure at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like we're talking about like anywhere between like $150 to $300.
Yeesh.
This one's complete for $8.99.
Oh, that's reasonable. $8.99. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, actually, hold on. While I'm here, Jamie, I'm going to look up my big Super Nintendo regret. Because this is one that I just randomly picked up at Game Fellas because it looked interesting. I'd never seen it before. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Hagane for Super Nintendo. I see a loose cartridge going for $599 US. And I see a Japanese complete one going for $800. And
Jesus.
and a complete US version for $1,700.
Okay.
And I think mine was complete.
Oh, wow.
Fuck.
Man. Damn, dude. Damn.
Yeah. And yeah.
I'm sorry to both of you. My deepest regrets to you both that this thing's happened. Oh, man.
All right, next up, Jamie says, Dragon Warrior 3 for NES. Okay, this one is going to hurt. Part of the haul I sold off was a complete box copy of this game, which also included the additional world map and original packaging. Everything was in like-new condition. Originally, I only paid like $20 or so. Stupid. Yeah, dude, that's
all of a sudden,
dude. That's rough. Like, and that's part of what I was getting at with like my Game Fella stuff is that it's nice to just have stuff and then keep it, and then it just then you see, oh, I'm really glad that I held on to that, because that's the thing is that like my collection probably would be worth like, I don't know, 5-6 times what it is now, but also it would have been stuff that I had only paid either regular retail price for or used price for back when it was cheap. So
well, if we ever invent time machines, what we need to do, and this is something that you all should know about, make yourself a time machine password, so that you can go back, and if you ever go back in time, you can tell your old self this password that only they will know about. So that you can confirm that you're you from the future, right? So, and then tell yourself not to get rid of those games. That's a good idea. You know, I'm just looking out for everybody. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, Jamie says, the Sharp Twin Famicom. It's a Nintendo Famicom and Famicom Disk System all in one system. I imported from a game store in Japan back in 2004. Oh, cool. I got the red, black color, and it was beautiful. Man, I wish I never sold that thing. I've never even seen one of those. He says, I've never cared about hanging on to retro games in hopes of selling them for a high price later. What bothers me is that I didn't think I'd repurchase some of the systems I sold later down the road, which means that I'd want to replay some of those games I gave up that are now too expensive for me to acquire again. There's a lesson here, kids. Don't make my mistakes. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, my dad, and I don't, you know, again, I don't know why I didn't think about this at the time, but, you know, my dad, he regretted like selling his Marvel comics that he read when he was a kid, because he kept them in really good condition too. And he had some of that really like valuable stuff. He didn't have like Amazing Fantasy number 15 or whatever, but he still had some really good shit. But for some reason, I never thought that video games would appreciate in value, because even in the Game Fellas days, the best a game would do would hold its value. So like we would sell Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo for $49.99. But it wasn't that it had gone up in price. It was just that it didn't go down in price, like say Super Mario World, which we sold for like $5.99. Right. And so it just never occurred to me that, oh, one day this stuff will go up. You know, I don't know. And again, just seems silly now. Like, of course it would go up, but young and foolish.
It happens, man. It happens. I mean, I have comic book regrets too, that I somehow I found the in my uncle's box, like print paper box of comic books. This man somehow acquired the very first appearance of Wolverine, which was worth a pretty good amount. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that.
Incredible Hulk,
but I remember finding it.
I think it's
so it wasn't the one that was worth the most though, because the one that's worth the most is the one right after it. But it was Hulk shows up at the very end. He makes like his or not Hulk. Wolverine shows up at the very end. It's versus the Indigo or
Wendigo. Yeah.
Wendigo,
okay. Yeah. So he must show up at the end of 180, and then 181 is the one with him on the cover.
Yep. So that one was the one that was worth more, but it was still worth a decent amount. You know,
yeah.
I wish I still had it. But anyway, let's see.
We're moving on to Twitter.
Where do we start on Twitter, Julian? Do you know?
I see Xavier Krieger as first up.
All right. I think you're correct. I'm going to assume you're correct. All right. He says, Is it start? Yes, I think that's okay. Okay, I got it. I got it. We got there. Here we go. He says, I'm going to cheat because this is Xavier Krieger. He is at Kate is Bane on Twitter. There, wait, we got the whole thing out of the way. We're on Twitter. Twitter is a place where you can send us messages and also contribute to Stage Select. It's a great way to do it if you don't do that already. And he says, I'm going to cheat because I have 2 big gaming regrets. I have bought the Force Unleashed 2 Collector's Edition. Mediocre game, about 8 hours long, and for my extra money, I got a horrifically ugly 2 gigabyte USB drive that looked like the Star Killer stretched out. And 2, I sat down for a marathon play of Dot Hack Infection and got about 10 hours in when my PlayStation 2 froze up and I realized I had not a single save file. Oh, that's depressing.
Oh, dude, that's RPG playing 101, Xavier.
Oh man, save often.
Yes. But I'll do you one better on the collector's editions. I bought Duke Nukem Forever Collector's Edition, Balls of Steel Edition.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think that was $99.99 US for Duke Nukem Forever.
Oh no, that's bad.
I thought there might be like archival stuff. Like I thought they might like have a lot of stuff about like the legacy of it, like how long it took. Yeah, no, it's just a really bad bust of Duke Nukem.
No, it's Gearbox. They don't give a shit about any of that. Oh man, I'm sorry, Julian. I'm sorry to you all. These things happen.
They do.
We'll all get through them together.
Yeah, it's a healing process. It
really is. Yeah. It really is.
All right, next up we have Red Venom, and he is on Twitter at Zikelly7. He says, biggest gaming regret happened last year when I decided to trade my copy of Splatoon for 50% off Diablo 3 on Switch. Not that it was a bad deal. It was because I got the brand new copy sealed, stolen from my backpack on the bus on my way home. And not only the game, but my old new 3DS X, my old new 3DS XL. It makes sense. Also with Animal Crossing New Leaf cart inside. Hours of Animal Crossing New Leaf and other games gone. Moral of the story, never trade in games at GameStop. That shit be cursed. Yeah, dude, that's rough.
Yeah. I'm sorry that happened to you. You know who it was. You know who my theory is who stole it from you on the bus. It was Brad.
Yes.
You and we need to track him down, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Track him down, and we become a tag team and crush him.
At least Diablo 3 on the Switch isn't very good, so like you didn't like there's at least that. Like
right.
I don't know.
I don't know either. After that, we have Philip PK Becker, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
He is at PK Becker on the Twitter, and he says, biggest regrets. Okay, all right. Buying Outer Wilds. I booted it up and went through one cycle and did not like the feel. Otherwise, selling a bunch of games to GameStop back in high school. I enjoyed Outer Wilds. I take offense to this, but I mean, if you don't like the game, you don't like the game. It happens.
I super didn't like Outer Wilds, but at least it was on Game Pass, so it didn't.
Oh, Outer Wilds!
Yes.
God damn it, not Outer Worlds.
Yes,
oh,
no. Giant Bomb's Game of the Year 2019,
yes.
Outer Wilds.
Okay. Dude, that was the most confusing naming thing of last year.
Yeah.
Like, I constantly get them confused. Okay, yes. And it's going to get worse as time goes on. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm always going to get these two confused.
Well, but also because, like, Outer Wilds will go on to be this indie darling, and then people who want to talk about the actual awesome game that came out that year,
right.
that started with Outer, are just going to be like, you mean Outer Wilds? No, I mean Outer Worlds, the RPG.
Yeah. Okay, no. Okay, PK Becker, you're totally right. Never mind. Disregard everything I said. I totally had the wrong game there. We're all good here.
All right. Next up, we have Blaine Faya, who is on Twitter at Blaine Faya. He says, I'm going to kind of lump a bunch of regrets into one. I really regret not keeping better track of my consoles and games. I've owned a substantial amount of video games and consoles in my life, but I don't have too many to show for it. Whether it was me being young and dumb and selling things, or just plain losing them. I'm still haunted by my memories of games that I know I have owned, but no longer do. I mean, like I said, I wish that I could like compile a list of everything that I've owned just so that I could share it with you guys, because it's vast. I tell you.
Yeah, I'm right there with him, because I'm basically the same way. I had whatever I had. I don't even remember. Couldn't tell you all the things, and I don't know what happened to a lot of my stuff. I either sold it or it just got lost or whatever from moving. Who knows? But it depresses me to think about it. But yeah, this, like we said, this is a healing thing. We're all getting it out there, you know?
Yes.
After that, we have our buddy Jeffka, and he is at Jestoff on the Twitter, and he has some things to say about regrets about video games, and he says, my biggest regret in gaming is actually when I went through my I'm too old for Nintendo phase to try and be popular at school and act more adult. I stopped playing almost all of Nintendo games and other fun, bright stuff because it wasn't cool, and if you did play, some kids at school thought you were childish or some inane shit. Because of that, I missed 2 Pokemon generations and some other great games. Eventually, I realized that games are fun no matter what, and broke out of it. In fact, I found a group of friends that liked all games, including Nintendo. We still hang out to this day, in fact. I just got off of Monster Hunter with some of them. Big regret, but it had a good ending.
Yeah, that's
good.
Yeah. I think everybody kind of goes through that phase. It's sort of like with Disney movies. Like, you get to a certain age, you're like, well, I'm too old for Disney. And then you get to another age, you're like, oh, I love all the Disney again. So, yeah.
I have that to some degree. And then, like, I don't know, like, I don't feel bad that I missed out on, like, GameCube stuff because I remember playing all of it. And I was just like, yeah, I just don't really care for a lot of this. And I don't know what it was. I don't know. I think I used to get mad at Nintendo's controllers because they just kept making weird ass fucking controllers all the time. I was like, I feel like this is a problem that we've solved, but you just insist on being different, and it's weird to me. I don't know. But
oh man, fine. Yeah. Xavier Krieger posted a tier list of controllers on Facebook that I was like, I didn't say anything because I was just angry. Like, I was like, this is all so wrong.
How high up is the GameCube one, Julian?
No, the GameCube is very low, and but no, okay. That's not the thing. It was like the Switch, or no. I think was it the Wii U Pro controller was like way up there, and like, okay. Basically like the DualShock 4 and the Xbox One controllers weren't very high up on the list, and neither was this. I don't know, And there were some Nintendo controllers that were way higher than they should have been. Like,
yeah, I've always found Nintendo controllers to be the weirdest things. They build around their controller. I think that's a cool thing that they do. But at the same time, like when other people go to make games for it, it's just like now we have to like Nintendo 64. I guess we can only use like half the controller because this is how the fucking thing works. But anyway,
I do love the GameCube controller though.
It's I don't know, man. That fucking
those clicky triggers.
The C button stick though, and
it's fine.
The weird placing of I hate the way I hate how they're okay. I don't mind that there's one big button in the middle. I don't like the outer buttons. I don't know. I've never liked that thing. I remember touching it. I was like, everything about this feels wrong. I don't like you're trying to play like then they'd release like first person shooters where it's like, oh yeah, it has 2 analog sticks, but like you have to use the weird C button controller that has the little notches in it to move around. It wasn't good for third party stuff. They used it fine, but yeah, I was never a big fan of it.
All right, last but certainly not least on Twitter, we have Estevan Islas, who's on Twitter at Expired. And he says, let's see. I think one of my regrets has to be that as a kid, I was always trading in games and never holding on to them. One game in particular for GameCube was Phantasy Star Online, since it had an offline mode and 4-player capabilities. Some friends and I got together to play it. After that day, I looked for my own copy to find it selling for $80. That purchase hurt a little, but worth it for when we would get together. Now we finally have PSO2 on Xbox to give us new experiences. Yeah, I don't know if you can go home again, though, Estevan. I tried. I hope you're enjoying it if you're playing it. I
have never touched the Phantasy Star Online games because I didn't have capable internet to do things like that. And
even offline Phantasy Star Online 1 is a lot of fun, though.
I believe it. Yeah.
But
I always wanted to mess with it, but I just never did. So yeah, I'm kind of like when I seen it, that was one of their big reveals at the last E3, and I was like, all right, I guess. I know like people were super hyped about it. I was like, all right, I guess this is a thing.
Yeah,
I don't really care, but like I'm with Julian. I hope you go back and I hope you have a great time. That sounds great.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully everybody feels better after all of this. I think that you can see that you're not alone in a lot of your regrets. So it's nice to come together in this dark time. The Death Stranding that we're all in.
Right.
But that's it for this stage select. But Justin, that means it is time for you to unveil what we're doing for the next stage select.
This one, Julian, is going to be really good for the situation that we have going on right now, I think. I think everybody needs a little bit of cheering up. And one of my favorite episodes from this podcast ever of all time was a music episode where Angelo Grant wanted people to send him songs that made them cry.
Yes,
and it was
I remember that well.
Great episode. It was a great episode. I loved it. I've actually found one of my favorite games from that episode that I didn't even know existed. And I want to do the exact opposite of that because right now we don't need to cry. We need to feel better about things. So I want songs that make you laugh or songs that make you really happy from video games. Like, what are those songs? What are some songs that you hear from a video game and they just make you feel really good?
Oh man, I've already got my list right now.
Oh dude, I do too. And I've really been really excited about a lot of these and like just I want funny, happy, good songs, just really good feeling stuff. So send them in. You can I don't know if you want to put a limit on people, Julian, how you want to do that, but I'm
going to say for listeners, let's keep it to 2.
Okay.
Because songs can get that can really balloon the episode.
Yes.
So I think if we keep it to 2, that should be pretty good. I mean, you can list more, but I'll probably just put the first 2 that you write down in the actual episode. And usually what I do with those is that we'll play the entire songs for us, or for the ones that we do, and then listeners, we kind of layer them underneath the conversation. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Indeed.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like we all need some cheering up, and I love listening to music to kind of unwind, and I think it'll be really fun to do. So let's do that.
I like that one a lot. And we will want those by 8:30 Central Time on May the 1st. Hey, that's when the country opens back up, guys.
We all had a good laugh.
Yes, we have fun here. Yes, we'll want those by 8:30 Central Time on May 1st. You can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 174, or you can go to Twitter and DM us at NWPcast. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdswithoutpantspodcast. You can either post on our wall or send us a message there. I'll get it. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Stage Select. So why don't we jump on into Consumption Junction? All right, Justin. I only did one thing since the last time that we played, or since we recorded. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't like it. The end.
The end. Well, I feel like people would be very disappointed if that's all we have for that.
I just want to say real quick that this is going to suck because I realize that I invited a bunch of Square Roots listeners to come and check out the show, and we're going to lose all of that goodwill right now.
You never know. All right. Should I talk about my other thing first before we go into our Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff?
Oh, you actually have another thing?
I just want to wrap something up from last week.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all I want to do. Okay, I will do that real quick. It'll take me 2 seconds. So last week I was talking about Skyrim modding the movie, the game. And I just want to let everybody know I fixed my fucking crashed desktop. Fixed it. I feel very, very good about it. The story behind what actually happened was a story of horrendous user error on my part. And basically what happened was either one of two things. Either I had way too many animations going into an area and it was just crashing immediately. I'm not exactly sure, and I found a workaround for that. So I fixed anything future going forward with that. Or it was because I installed these animal skeletons wrong, because what happened, and the way I figured it out, is I got the same crash when I went to a completely different area, and it had the same error code and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, here we go again. I don't know what's going on. I may have to give up on this. But out of the corner of my eye, I seen a little animal in Skyrim called a saber cat. And I was like, what's that doing there? That seems out of place. I don't remember this being here. And I was like, huh, and he's right in that area where I'm crashing. Well, hold on. Let me walk over here. I'm going to shoot an arrow at him. And whenever I shot the arrow would just like glitch. Like it would just start going insane. Like my screen would
that's
freeze,
like some
and then the arrow
stuff.
Yeah, the arrow would like teleport to him, and I was like, oh, I think we found our culprit. And I walked up and I killed the saber cat. He died. I walked up to him, and as soon as I got close to it, it crashed, and I was like, I think we found our culprit, and that's, yeah. So it was one of two things that I had installed, and the one I like had installed completely wrong. I had the wrong version of it installed that had some weird bug or something, and I was like, okay, finally I can breathe. I switched my E and Bs. My game looks really good right now. I actually have a few screenshots saved. Because did you know if on PC, if you're playing a game, this is the thing I learned recently. You know how you've been saying, like, if I'm on PC, you can see what games I'm playing?
Yeah, when I'm on the Xbox. Yeah.
You can actually hit the Xbox middle button on your PC, and it'll come up with a screenshot mode and stuff like that. It'll come up with almost like the full Xbox menu. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I've been kind of working on screenshots and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Hopefully I'll get them out soon. I meant to put them out when that podcast came out, but then I was like, I just don't. I'm so bad about screenshotting. Anyway,
no one ever expects
Julian,
the saber cats.
No one ever expects this goddamn saber cats. That was the last thing I thought was causing that crash. And then when I went to the old area, I was like, there are saber cats in that area. That totally does make sense now. I totally get why this was crashing. All right.
Well, so to preface this, I want to say we are going to do a spoiler cast on this. And
yes,
I mean, we were already going to do it, but especially because most of my issues with Final Fantasy VII Remake stem from story. And so I really can't talk about a lot of my issues about it without spoiling the shit out of this game, and also spoiling the shit out of Final Fantasy VII Vanilla.
Right.
But I was basically hate playing this game. I'm not done with it. You finished it. I'm almost done with it. I'm on chapter 13 of 18. And there's a couple things. I have a lot of like Star Wars analogies to make with this, and let me remind you of a little thing called Star Wars Special Edition, where George Lucas took a movie that was already perfect and then just crammed a bunch of superfluous shit into it that seemed cool at the time, but then after a few years we realized we really didn't need it to begin with.
Okay, let me stop you. Because before you go forward, get to the ending, and then maybe you might have a different analogy of that.
Oh, well, I've got another one too.
Okay, go for it.
Because this also reminds me of the Star Wars prequels, where between the end of Return of the Jedi and all of those years until Episode 1, George Lucas became convinced that Star Wars was much more important than it was, and basically thought that he was doing some sort of service to mankind by doing the prequels, and the prequels kind of fall like under the weight of their own self-importance, and so does this. Like I really do feel that like Nomura and Katase were just like kind of sniffing their own farts for the last 23 years and be like, oh yes. And then this is what, and they just created basically Advent Children 2.0. Like,
okay. Yeah. No, that seems apt even after everything I know going into it.
And that's all I really want to, I mean, again, most of that stuff I I don't want to say without getting into the spoiler cast, but
we have a plan. We're going to do a spoiler cast. I'm going to wait till Julian finishes it. Julian was way ahead of me for a while.
Oh,
and,
yes. Can I tell this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Everybody knows that Justin consumes games in like if it's a 40-hour game, he's usually got it done within like the first 3 days. I'm not even kidding. That's just a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I also have a little bit of story. So I had ordered this way back when it was announced at Best Buy, and I was going to have it be picked up at the store that's near my work because I was like, I'll be working that day. I'll just go like at lunch, pick it up, take it home, awesome. And then as we got closer and with the COVID thing happening, I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch it to being shipped to me because I'm also off on Good Friday. So that way, like it'll probably get here like in the afternoon, but that'll be fine. That was a big mistake because it did not show up. And so I ended up buying this game twice because and this is a very stupid. You want to talk about regrets because this is a dumb thing that I did for no other reason than for me. I have bought every mainline Final Fantasy game on launch day since Final Fantasy VII, and I have not missed one. Right. So I was going to be goddamned if I didn't have this on day one. And so I just went ahead and bought it digitally. Ended up working out well because my copy didn't come in until 4:30 on that Saturday. Right. So and at that point I was already 12 hours into it or something like that. So I would have been way behind. But the funny thing was I was texting you and you got it the night that it came out and you played it for 2 hours and then you didn't touch it for the rest of that weekend, which I don't know. That's really the best. That says it all right there.
Well, I played. I think it was more than 2 hours. I think I was like, I got it. I can't remember. I got it a little bit before it came out. I wasn't sure if it would work or not. I wasn't sure if I'd pop it into my PS4 and it would just be like, hey, you gotta still wait till midnight or whatever to play it. I wasn't sure how that worked.
Right.
I've never gotten a game actually early because I ordered the big special edition version, which I kind of regret a little bit, but not. It came with a cool cloud, I guess. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I got it early and I was like, I'll wait till midnight. And I kind of installed it around 11-ish. And it didn't take too long. Got it all done. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to play through basically the demo because that's the first part of the game. And then I played that and I was like, okay, I'm going to play up to where where I know I haven't seen yet.
Right.
Basically, I'm going to go into the first part of the game and then a little bit past that. And then I'm going to stop and I'll go on from there. And that's basically what I did. And then, I was just kind of I don't really want to, I kept going. I was like, I don't really want to play it that much. It just wasn't grabbing me for a while. And then at some point this week, and Julian was pretty far ahead of me the entire time. He played it over the weekend and I kind of would play it for a few hours and then okay, I'm gonna stop playing it here. And it was kind of nice to do that. And then I got to I don't know, it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday night. And I was just you know what? I'm this far into the game. I think I was at Walmart and I was I'm gonna sit here and beat this game. I just took the entire Wednesday and just was I'm going to beat Final Fantasy VII Remake today. I'm going to plow through it. And I think that was around the same time where I just decided that, okay, well, let's just get into it. Because I have some complaints about Final Fantasy VII Remake. And none of this is story stuff. We're going to cover all that on a spoiler cast. I'm kind of middle of the road on the story stuff. There are parts I think are really, really good and I really like. And there are parts where I'm I don't know and even knowing where they were going, now I'm kind of I don't know if I trust the people who are making this to do this correctly. Mm-hmm. And, it's a whole thing. But anyway, so I'll just come right out and say this. I don't really care for the combat that much. It's Kingdom Hearts. It's very Kingdom Hearts combat-y. I think it's fine and it's fun in spots, but they're trying to toe this line that my brain just doesn't really get it. somehow. Like, it's trying to do the original active time battle stuff, but it's also has these actiony elements, and I find it like really overwhelming at times, and like sometimes like confusing. And I know this is just me.
No, it's not just you.
Lot. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I feel a little bit better then.
Yeah.
Because, like, so you get into the combat encounters. Like, I find a lot of them to be like really mashy, and then like there are encounters where like, and this was in the original game and this is every Final Fantasy really. You get into an encounter where it's like, oh hey, physical attacks don't hurt this dude. Okay, well I got to use magic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well I can only use magic if I wait to use magic.
Right.
Okay, so I guess now I have to wait for this bar to fill up, and what I'm doing is just running around the arena and trying to dodge. I hate the dodge. The dodge does like nothing. Blocking just feels weird. I think the game excels like when in the one-on-one fights a lot of the times, like when it's just you, where it's just Cloud versus like another guy. For as much as I hate a certain character in that game, which we'll get into and the story stuff,
it does and it doesn't, because like I can tell that in those encounters they really want you to make use of like the dodge and the block mechanics. Yeah. But they have so much shit on the screen, even in one-on-one battles with like particle effects and stuff like that, that I find it difficult to actually tell like when I'm supposed to block and or like what I'm supposed to block and win. They're like, this isn't a spoiler because you know that they're in the game and you fight them multiple times, but there is a battle with the Turks at one point in the game where Reno does this move, and I couldn't even tell because there's stuff going on. Oh, there's fire, there's explosions, and he's doing all of this stuff, and he comes at you really fast. I'm like, I can't even tell what the windup is for that animation. Yeah. And then I'm just on the ground. And that, I felt like that was a lot of like, I feel that a lot where it's like, I can't actually see when I'm supposed to block. And it seems like if I dodge, like you said, like it's like, pretty sure I got out of the way of that, but apparently I took 700 hit points of damage.
Here's the thing. It's trying to toe this line between character action and, active time battle, and it doesn't really pull either one off perfectly. It's kind of really middle of the road on each of them. It needs it, and it really hurts it, I think. Like for the dodge doesn't have iframes. Like you're okay, like, a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta. When you dodge in Bayonetta, you are, or even Dark Souls. When you dodge in Dark Souls, you have iframes. You're not going to
invincibility frames.
Invincibility frames. Yeah. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, you're not going to get hit during that time. But when you dodge in Final Fantasy VII, you are still going to take that damage unless you were clearly out of the way. And I find myself like trying to play it like a character action game where I'm like, okay, well, I'll time a dodge here, and I still get hit by like this thing. There have been entire battles in Final Fantasy VII where I've like done it perfectly. Like where I've been like, okay, I don't think I took a single hit, and then I'll look at my HP and I'm like, okay, I got hit by stuff. I don't even remember when I got hit.
And the feedback on it is very poor too, where it's like sometimes I don't realize I'm taking damage like you said, and then it's like, oh, I'm almost dead. Okay, that's weird.
And a lot of it feels really button mashy. Here's the thing. I like the boss encounters sometimes. I think some of them are cool, but here's a real problem I had. So I can't remember what exact boss fight this was, but I had it's one that Julian hasn't got to yet, so I won't spoil it or anything. But I got to this particular boss fight. I was really frustrated by the combat around a certain point in the game, and I was like, I'm gonna turn the combat down to easy because I'm just not having fun with it. I'm just really frustrated, and I just want to see what happens in the story. And I actually liked it a lot better that way. Like, it was a lot less frustrating to me. Like, I wasn't getting hit by stupid shit. And like, even when I did, it was like, whatever, I'll just heal myself. It's cool. But I got to a certain boss fight, and what ended up happening is I kind of figured them out, as you do. Like, I was like, okay, I get their pattern. I see what they're doing, and I staggered them. And as soon as I was like, okay, switch to this, start hitting them real hard, do my thing, it would launch into the next phase boss scene, like while they're staggered. And I'm like, this is a problem because now you just undid the work that I did. I staggered this boss. I did all this work, and now you had to show me this cutscene. Now this works in an active time battle scenario when like, oh, my character hit this guy. Now we launch into the cutscene, next phase boss fight. Cool. And then I get to select from a menu, do whatever.
Right.
That works in that context. In this, it doesn't work though, because because like I did this work to get this boss staggered, and now you had to show me this cutscene, and now the boss is on the other side of the arena, and I have to run all the way over to them and stagger them all over again. You undid every single ounce of work I did. That's a problem.
There's a lot of problems here. One thing, like I wanted to address what you're talking about is that it actually seems to take some cues from like Final Fantasy XIV. And hey, I love Final Fantasy XIV. And like, you know, the bosses, like some of the big primal fights, aka summons. Like when you do some of those, like they do have phases where like at some point you do enough damage and then like basically you're not doing anything and then it moves on to the next phase. But like, it works in that context because it's kind of a chance for you and your other party members to refocus and like, let's put up some protect spells again and let's like top off our cures and get into position. Here, like you will literally see like a cross over the or like a cross through their health bar saying you can't damage them right now. And yeah, so that's, I really don't like that, but I got to say, like, I'm worried that this is the future of the series because they have now put the stagger mechanic into the last 4 Final Fantasy games. If we're saying 13, 13-2, Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I think it's also in one of the mobile games.
Could be.
And no, I'm sorry. Like, it worked in Final Fantasy 13, but that was because the battles were more like puzzles and it was still like turn-based. And if you failed the encounter, you could start it immediately right there because it like when you died, it just like kicked you right out and the guy was right in front of you. You could just go fight him again.
Well, you can do that here too. You can just replay the encounter or whatever, but, and also, another one that does the stagger mechanic is Octopath Traveler, but that game is another one where each puzzle's like a boss fight where you've hit the weakness and then you stagger them, and that's where you unload on the boss with all this stuff that you've had save it up. I love but that's another one. That's a turn-based combat.
There's an underlying problem with the stagger mechanic, and it's in all of those games, including 13 and Octopath Traveler, and that's the fact that you're doing almost no damage to like these tougher characters until you stagger them. And so if you go into a battle where you don't have the right materia in Final Fantasy VII Remake, then
which is a problem.
Yeah, then you're just doing like piddly amounts of damage trying to get them staggered, and then when you stagger them, hopefully you can just like pour enough damage in. But like what I've seen is that there's one particular boss fight, and this isn't a spoiler because it's a location from the original. It's a boss in the train graveyard, where I staggered him, and then I only got a few hits in because his stagger bar like disappeared almost immediately. And then I staggered him again, and then it went into that cutscene bullshit that you were talking about. And it just felt like I was on this boss forever and not doing anything to him. And just basically it was like a battle of attrition. That's the thing that I feel a lot of these boss fights, they're epic and they look cool. But then it's just like you're just doing piddly amounts of damage until you stagger them, and it just seems to take forever. And there was one, the Hell House, where I was like, I got to a point where I was like, guys, I know what to do here. Just let me finish this. Like, this is going on way too long, and it's not fun. Like, just stop. That
fight is cool. Until it starts to drag on too long. That's the thing I think about a lot of the boss fights is I think they wear out their welcome a little bit.
Oh, not a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. Now, when the train graveyard that you mentioned, after that fight, that was the exact moment where I was like, I'm not enjoying this combat. I'm turning it down to easy.
Yeah.
And that was the exact moment after that fight. And after you said it, I was like, that was it. That was the one that really pissed me off. And after that, the boss fights were a lot shorter. And I was like, this is probably how this should have been. Like, this is probably how this, I mean, there are parts when it's on easy where you're like, yeah, it is a little too easy because you can just mash your way through out of stuff. But at the same time, like, I feel like there was some sort of balance that they could have struck lengthwise. Like, there's just times in encounters where I'm bored now. Like, I've been doing this same thing for however long, and I just want to move on. Like, it's padding. There's a lot of padding in this game, and some of it's not a lot of it's not necessary. A lot of it's some of it's cool. Some of it, that story stuff, but some of it's cool, but some of it's just like, God, this was not necessary. And boss fights, I think, are one of them. So that's the combat for me. Like, and also Punisher counters. Like, when you hit one, like in a one-on-one fight, like I was talking about earlier, when you hit a Punisher counter on a certain boss, it felt really cool and really good when you figured it out and time it right. It felt like a character action counter, but at the same time, I hate when you go into Punisher stance and then you're kind of stuck there. There might be a way out of that to where you can maybe you can like block and it gets you out of the stance.
You
I'm
can
not
roll
smart enough to figure these things out. You can roll; it'll get you out.
If you roll, you automatically get out of it. But yeah, no, because it's such a slow. And that's the thing is that I think. Well, and also I hate the button mapping for this game. I think it's awful.
It's Kingdom Hearts. That's what it is.
Yeah, like I haven't played one in a long time, but yeah, like I said on the demo, like using triangle as your interact button is just wrong. And then the X button for your like I am almost 30 hours into this game and I am still doing things where it's like, oh nope, that's not what I want to do. Oh nope, now I'm over with Tifa. I didn't want to do that. Oh okay. Like all the time, and but I will say,
how bad?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say before we get you said triangle to interact as the button. How bad is pressing an actual switch in this game?
Oh, don't
How clumsy does it feel?
It Witcher 3 like levels of bad because Witcher 3 has this problem too.
Yeah, it feels like the characters like on Salvia when you go to move them to the switch. Like it's so bad, and they don't make. There was a side quest in the beginning of the game, which the side quest I'll get into in a little bit. There was a side quest I got stuck on for like almost a full hour because I couldn't find the switch that I needed to hit. It didn't make it apparent at all, like where this switch was. And God bless them, they made a lot of this stuff blend in, but at the same time, an important thing like a switch that I need to pull to progress a thing, you need to make that pop a little bit more than what it does sometimes. Like they make it blend in a little too much, and I know that's what they were going for, but man, sometimes I was just like really not liking that aspect of it. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say I kind of I wish they had not like kind of hedged their bets. I wish like if this was actually full on action with like RPG elements, so like you know, like, and you can still have the characters play differently. So like, definitely still have Barrett with like his machine gun and then his like high powered thing. But if Cloud was just like triangle is heavy, square is light, X is jump, and then circle is dodge, right? And then maybe like if you want to do, there's a different way that you could do like other abilities, like because they do have like some mapping to where you can do stuff. There's things that they could have done.
They have hotkeys basically. Yeah. They have hotkeys built in. But they could have. I never used them once.
I haven't used them once either. But they could make that like by default. Like that's the way that you do your stuff. You just kind of map certain abilities to it. I don't know. There's different ways that they could do that where it would, I think, feel better.
I think you're right. I think they should have just not had the active time battle thing. They just don't let people wait for it. Just don't add that bar. Yeah. I think that would have helped a lot.
And then the other thing about the active time battle bar, I mean, you can make it go faster if you're actively attacking, which means that you're having to switch to characters that you need. But my thing is that a lot of times, like, especially with the way, I don't know, because when you're not controlling a character, they dumb. And
they're very dumb.
Yeah, and that's one thing is that Remake feels like it's they just dumped a bunch of other Final Fantasies into it. They're like, hey, here's the weapon ability thing from Final Fantasy IX, and then here's the stagger mechanic from 13, but it's going to be like pseudo MMO style combat like 12, but we're not going to let you program the AI for the characters so they're actually useful.
It's funny. I actually like the weapon thing. I actually dig that mechanic. Yeah, I think it's okay.
But I feel that it's like this game doesn't kind of have it. It feels like it doesn't have its own identity because it's just kind of like this weird like mishmash of previous games. Right. Not to say that other games didn't, like there's a lot of like mechanics that carry through the series, but the way that it's implemented here just feels like, I don't know, man, let's just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks for the next version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that my issue with the active time battle, like I was saying, is that for me personally, I always felt that I'm having to use my charges for items to heal or cure spells to heal, which means that I almost never have like enough ATB gauge to actually use the abilities that are going to help me stagger enemies faster.
Right.
And that like, now I will say, because people are probably going to say, oh, you're just not good at the game. I didn't die on like a major story part of the game until like chapter like 11 or 12. I've only died twice so far.
I was going to say, I had the same thing. I really wasn't bad at the combat.
Yeah.
Like I was doing fine. I was holding my own. I just got really bored and like was like, okay, I really just don't want to sit here and mess with this. It's taking too long.
Yes.
Like I just got bored with it.
Yeah.
So that's why I turned the difficulty down. Now I am not the best at the combat because I've watched like another person play the game that was pretty good at it. And I was like, oh, they're doing some stuff that seems interesting. And like, I kind of see what they're doing a little bit. And I think what it boils down to is I'm just not patient enough, but I don't know. It feels boring to be patient in the game. I don't know. It's weird. It's got something going on that my brain just doesn't work that way.
It's simultaneously much faster than the original Final Fantasy VII and also much slower. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Where, it's like, okay, you're doing like a lot of moving around and things are moving quickly and there's all sorts of shit going on the screen, but the actual battles seem to be taking longer than they do in the original game, which was a very slow turn-based system.
And it's weird. It's cool to see a lot of the enemies, and there's like throwaway enemies that are like full-blown like, oh, remember this really weird, obscure thing that was in the original? Well, here it is as a different thing. And it's kind of cool to see some of that stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's weird. I have really complex feelings about it. But, like, the combat, I know, and I keep saying this, I'm really sorry to Kingdom Hearts fans. I really am. But it does feel like Kingdom Hearts. And I've said that style is not it's not a thing I prefer. And this kind of, like, is just like, yeah, this still isn't my thing.
Yeah.
There's something about it. My brain just doesn't work this way. I don't like taking damage from things that I can't even see because I'm getting hit from behind and all this stuff's happening. There's a lot of numbers popping up. I don't know where they are. That other guy's taking a lot of damage. He's dead now. Fuck, I gotta raise him. How did they get hurt? Oh, they're just running up to the enemy and trying to hit him. Oh, I didn't tell them to do that, but maybe I should switch to them. Oh, now he's going up there and he's trying to do something that doesn't even work for this boss. But okay, yep. It's so overwhelming. Like my brain just can't. And if yours does, like, and you really like the game, I'm not telling you to not like the game. I think if you like it, God bless, you're that's cool. I'm really happy that you enjoy it. It's just, I'm not big on the combat. And like I said, once I turned it down, I actually was having a pretty good time because I was just like, just hit the buttons and they're dead now. It's fine. Sometimes cast some magic. It's cool. Like, it made it a lot more enjoyable.
Oh, I forgot that 15 had the goddamn stagger mechanic too. I forgot about that. So yeah.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. So we're going on like a full 10 years of stagger mechanic, and it's like, and this game is doing very well. Like, you, me, and John Brandon from Square Roots are the only people that I know of that have negative opinions on it. Everybody else is over the moon for it, which terrifies me for the future of my favorite video game franchise. And my only salvation is if Yoshi P, who's the director of Final Fantasy XIV, is indeed directing 16. Maybe then I've got a chance, but I'm worried that we're at a point where, because I realized as I was playing this, I haven't loved a mainline, offline Final Fantasy since 10. I've liked all of the ones since then. Like, I actually do like, 12 and 13 and 15. I don't love them, but I like them. And I do think 12 is the most replayable of those. I
was going to say, 12, I remember when I played that game finding it very, very interesting, but not something I really want to go back to. I was like, this is really interesting how they made this like almost MMO combat, but like at the same time, and there's a lot of customization there. That's another thing about this game. I love and I'm probably one of the very few that do like this. I love the materia system in Final Fantasy VII because it always meant that I could use whoever I wanted in my party and like have cool combos for everybody. And maybe this is an end game thing where you start actually getting the cool, combo stuff for materia. But in this one, it doesn't feel like that's there. Maybe that's coming in a later game, but like,
there's not enough of the support material that you need. I only have one, and I also didn't realize that it was the thing that I needed because they don't call it all anymore. So I kind of skipped over. I was like, oh wait, that's the one that I need. But the one that allows you to cast all, I only have one. And I only have one elemental materia, so you can't. So yeah, I don't know where to get more. Like I haven't seen them in any shops or anything like that.
I think. I don't think you can. I don't even know if they split.
I don't know. They do not split because I have maxed out.
Okay.
A materia. Well,
okay, yeah. I was gonna say I think I have two, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah. If it did, it's hard to tell because the information that you get when you win a battle is so off to the side and not noticeable. Yeah. Like I acquired a materia that I didn't even know that I had because there's a boss where you're supposed to I think they tell you that you're supposed to dispel like its barrier or whatever, but I was like, well, I don't have dispel magic, and then it turned out that I did. I just didn't know that I'd ever acquired that materia. It's like, okay, I don't even know where I got it.
The game is very bad at relaying information to you, and also, like you said, how they do the leveling and stuff like that. It almost feels like leveling up just doesn't even matter sometimes. Like I'm just like, that was a big deal when you level up in older Final Fantasies. Like in this one, it just like, you're level 30 whatever now, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Nothing. I didn't get anything cool, so.
Well, and I should have started off with this, but the more I thought about it, the more pissed I get that this is only a very small part of an overall story. Cause, this game will take you about 30, possibly more hours to complete.
I forgot how many I got through it in. Yeah.
So you can beat the original Final Fantasy VII in like 50 to 60 hours. Obviously it's going to be more if you do a bunch of the extra stuff. Yeah. But that game needed an editor. Like there's a lot of stuff that needed to be removed from that game and then other things that needed to be clarified. So when I hear that this game is almost as long as that, especially if you took out some of the stuff that I think should be taken out, then I have even bigger problems with this because again, I don't buy this excuse that it's too big of a game. Witcher 3 exists, Skyrim exists, Final Fantasy 14 exists. Those are all very, very large games with like huge areas.
It's weird because, okay, this is really tough to talk around because getting to the ending, I was like, I don't know where they're going here. I'm gonna let you get there.
We'll delve deeper into that later.
Yeah, we'll delve deeper into this. So if our listeners are like, I won't. Yeah. I'm not gonna say anything. But you mentioned Witcher 3. Witcher 3 has great side quests.
Fantastic side quests.
Some of the best.
Also,
some of the best.
With very good looking NPCs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This game has none of that. I think the side quests in this game
they're marginally better than 15 by a hair. And 15 side quests were dog shit.
Yeah. When I started playing it, I was like, this feels like an updated PlayStation 2 game, like side quest wise. Like, it's just like, hey, go here, get the thing, fight the monster, go back. Hey, here's an item. There's no like, it doesn't add to the world. It doesn't tell an interesting story. It's just like, hey, we need help killing these things in the neighborhood. They're bad things. And it's like, okay, I did the thing. Now what? I don't get any like, there's no benefit to it. I mean, you get an item. There's a benefit, obviously. Yeah. Maybe like you get experience, get an item, but like, so what? It's a needless fetch quest. And that doesn't really stop. It just feels like extra shit.
The only thing story wise that I've gotten is that one character had a throwaway line of background background knowledge about Biggs. I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing I know about Biggs that I didn't know before.
Yeah, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and who cares? Right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I hate that about the game. I feel like that stuff should have been handled with care. And I was talking to Julian about this earlier, where I'm at in the game, like I've beaten it, obviously, not where I'm at, but like where I'm at, like, thought wise on the game is like, it's not so much that I don't like it. It's just, I'm really disappointed in it. I felt like if you're going to make this just Midgar, and obvious, they did a thing, but if you're going to make this just Midgar, I really wanted a more open version of Midgar. I really wanted them to explore places in Midgar that I'd never been to before, and like really expand on that. Like the side quests that are like, hey, go up top to the plate and go explore this area and meet some people up there, and really expand on, hey, our lives are really great up on top of the plate or whatever. Just, there's a lot you could add to the world this way that they just don't get into. And in that respect, the game seems very linear, which I know the original Midgar section of the game is linear, but if you're going to do this thing and make it a big grandiose thing, open Midgar up a little bit. Make me like get to travel around on the train stations and go to these other places that I've never seen in Midgar. Really like show me some cool stuff that I didn't know about, and like really expand upon that world. And that's what I was hoping for with this. And I didn't get any of that, and it left me really bummed out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, cause one of the cool things about the game, I mean, there are things that I like about it, even though there's not much. Justin's, I think, higher on it than I am. But, you know, it is cool to see parts of Midgar, or just Midgar in this detail, even though, hey, some of the game looks real shitty. But parts of it look amazing. But, you know, like getting to look up and see the plate, right? And like, it's neat to see it realized, because I was like, oh, okay, so you can see the sun from certain parts of Midgar. That's pretty neat. Right. So it explains why there is some plant life and stuff like that. And then, like there is like we had talked before, and we'll talk about it in depth. There's a chapter where you get to go very in depth. This is wholly new content, right? Yeah. And it's actually pretty good stuff. And you do get to see
like that part.
Like part of Midgar that was never in the original game. And so you get a better idea of how this weird city works, because that's the other thing, is that Midgar, in the world of Final Fantasy VII, is like this way different beast, from the rest of the world. So it would have been neat to explore more of that. And like you were telling me before the show, and what I'd been saying in previous episodes is, I was kind of going into this game, and you know, I had lowered my expectations down to almost zero, and I was still disappointed. Right. But I was going into it thinking, you know what? I'm not looking at this as a remake anymore, and it's not. Like, we'll talk about it in the spoiler cast. This is not a remake.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But I was going into it saying, okay, this is going to be Final Fantasy VII, but it's done Yakuza style, where Midgar is Kamurocho. I could be all right with that. And you can tell that there's parts where they try to do that, but they miss the mark by a huge margin. Where it's like, this stuff isn't quirky, this stuff isn't like neat, or this stuff isn't fun. And then, there's other stuff where they do try to be quirky, but I think in the wrong way. And, you know, don't get me wrong, the original Final Fantasy VII has some goofy stuff in it.
Absolutely.
But there's ways that they treat Cloud with the goofiness in this that I don't think works where it did in the original, that I can't talk about. It's
yeah, we'll get to that in story stuff.
Let's talk about some stuff we like, though. I think we should at least do that. I think the character designs are amazing. I think a lot of the characterizations are really good, as far as the way that they're written, with the exception of one main character and one of the secondary characters. I think it is really cool that you get to learn more about Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, and 2/3 of that trio are awesome. And then one of them, I fucking hate the way that they wrote him.
Biggs, I could not get over how much Biggs looks like Charlie Sheen, though. Like, just looks like Charlie Sheen. I mean, just like, this is now a thing that if you're listening to this, you will never be able to unsee it. He is Charlie Sheen. Like, it's insane to me. Anyway, go. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
And you know, it is very pretty, like 85% of the time. But then that 15% is rough. Like, Final Fantasy X gets a lot of flack for the NPCs looking just like mannequins compared to the main characters. But at the time, I was like, you know what? It's one of the first games on the PlayStation 2. It's Square's first game on the PlayStation 2. I'll give it a pass. This is the end of a console generation. There is no excuse for these NPCs looking as rough as they do. And their lips don't even sync, and it looks real bad.
Yeah, they're, like you said, we said this before, there's a lot that just reminds me of like a Yakuza game, but like the side quests in Yakuza are like infinitely more interesting and fun.
Yes.
Like in those games, and add to like that city and that overall landscape. And if they would have went for something like that added to, hey, this is Midgard, this is what it's like here, I would have been really cool with that. There are moments in like the story that I like a lot of the expanded stuff on. Not all of it. I think certain parts from the original that were like really like glanced over in the original one are really given the weight that they deserve in this one.
Yes.
And I really do admire that stuff. I don't hate it. I'm somewhere in the middle on it. Like if I was going to rate this game, I'd give it like, I don't know, dead in the middle somewhere. Like, I don't know. Let's see, if we're rating it out of 10, I'd probably give it like maybe I don't know, 6.5 seems too low. Maybe a 7. I'm not 100% sure on that.
I'm like at a 4.
I'd have to. Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit higher than you are. I'm not like, especially when I turned the I don't know. When I turned the combat down, I was like, there's a balance that they just missed here. And maybe, I don't know. Yeah. It's weird.
I hope you enjoy feeling the way that I have felt about Nier Automata as in regards to the rest of the world. It feels real weird, don't it? Where it's like everybody is over the moon for it, and it's like,
Yeah, and like there's been a lot of people that praise like a lot of the quality of life stuff, and I'm like, there was quality of life stuff in the game? Like, what are you talking about? Because like I found the map system in the game to be abysmal. Maps have been done better in almost every game ever.
It also needed to be on the screen.
This game 100% needs a mini map on the screen, because it's
a lot of the environments are very samey, and I get turned around after certain fights.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. And it's a problem. And all they needed to do, and they tried to do it a little bit, but all they needed to do was let me mark locations so that I could follow the cursor, but I can't do that unless I'm really dumb and I'm missing that, but I don't think I am. I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people were like, really, and I do admire this, where like the characters will be like, hey, I think we already went this way, and they're trying to, correct you through dialogue. That's cool. But there were times where I'm like, yeah, I know I went this way. I know I missed a thing.
Right.
I'm going back for a fucking reason, Barrett. Shut the fuck up. Like I got frustrated in a certain dungeon when they were like, hey,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, I know about. I am. I'm trying to find a thing, you asshole. Yeah. Shut up. And then you'd get to the thing, and they go, hey, are you sure you got everything? And I'm like, I don't know if I did. I hope I did. They needed a second line of dialogue at that point of no return thing. I admire the point of no return dialogue. I think that's great. Say, hey, if you're here, if you go on this elevator, this is it.
Right.
You can't come back here. That's cool. I admire that. But you need a second line of dialogue that says, hey, you did everything here. You're ready, right? Okay, cool. Awesome. Like, that's all I needed. But instead it just goes, you sure you got everything? And now I'm like, I don't know. Did I? Like, fuck, man. Like, I think I did. I think I got everything that I seen, but I don't know. Let me know, game. The game is just, there's a lot of times in this game where I'm just like wandering around like an area. Like, I know there's a switch I need to pull that I can't see or something. The game really needed to like have a character dialogue like, hey, maybe it's that switch over there or something like that. And they just don't have it there. Or just make switches more obvious. I don't know. I know I'm really dumb sometimes, and I know I miss a lot of things. There's times where I've felt really stupid playing this, where I was like, oh, it was right there. I'm just really stupid.
Well, there's also a lot of times where it does have like the indicator, but it doesn't show up until you're like right on top of it, and even then, it doesn't show up until you're like perfectly aligned with it. Again, Witcher 3 will do that sometimes, and it's that's actually a problem of this generation in general. Like a lot of games have that issue. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
They need to really kind of I know they're trying to like not handhold people as much because people get frustrated with it, but at the same time, I feel like there's some sort of balance here, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some way we can like not make people feel like they're getting their hand held, but still like make it obvious what I'm supposed to do next. I know, there's lighting and stuff like that. I usually could navigate dungeons just fine, but it was always like, it would always be a point where I'd be like, I need to pull a switch now. And I can't find this fucking switch because I can't find the fucking triangle button to come up. I don't know, stuff like that. I have a lot of weird frustrations with it. Overall, like I said, I think the game's fine. I don't hate it, but it's not what I wanted.
I have barely enjoyed any of it. And again, and I didn't come in here like I've said previously, it's not that I find I'm so precious with Final Fantasy VII, because it's like middle of the pack for me as far as like the core games.
Oh, it's my favorite game of all time.
I know.
Like, I've said that. Yeah.
But for me, like there's just like top to bottom very little here that I enjoy. And then when we get into like story stuff in the spoiler cast, like that's where things really go off the rails for me, where I'm actively angry. And it's funny because, like, as I alluded to earlier in the episode, I actually got like kind of depressed from this because it's like everybody is so in love with it, and I'm like, man, I don't like being that one guy, but it's like I don't see it. And then
we're not alone. I've read reviews where people are pretty pissed about it too. So
yeah,
I mean,
but not to this degree. Like most people that I do see that are like pseudo negative on it are still like over the moon for a lot of other stuff. Oh, I don't want to. We need to move on to Cage Match in a little bit, but I fucking hate the music in this game, and nobody else agrees.
Okay, I'm half and half. I think there are some tracks that are abysmal in it, and I think there are some really, really good ones, though. I really dig, there's a remix of, I almost want to say, oh fuck, I'm never going to think of what it was. There's almost like this really cool synthwave sounding song when you're going through, I believe it's the Collapse Expressway. You're going through there.
Oh, dude.
That song is awesome.
That is where I muted the game.
Oh, really? That song's great.
Like the remix of the like the Wall Market music?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's I may have the wrong section.
Okay.
I think it's before that, but I'll look it up after this.
Okay.
I'll send it to you what I'm talking about. I think it's awesome. There are certain bits and pieces of the music that I'm like, this is really good. But there are certain bits that I don't think land at all. I hate what they've done to the Turks theme. I cannot stand it. I'm probably alone on an island on this, but
well, let me say this is that, as I've said, like the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is not one of my favorites, but I also think that like the music doesn't get good until you get out of Midgar. But there are tracks in Midgar that I really love, and the ones that I really love, I really hate what they did here. Like Corneo's theme, it's missing my favorite part of the song. Like it's just gone. And then, well, it's not it's not one of my favorites, but like the Wall Market theme, like I said, I muted the game, and I have not muted a Final Fantasy.
I know exactly.
game.
I know exactly what song you're talking about. That is not the song that I was referring to. It's right. I think it's right before that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll have to look it up and send it.
But the new Wall Market music, I think, is atrocious, and a lot of the music in this game sounds like every like tech YouTube channel or like vlog YouTube channel's intro music. Like it's just very generic, and I don't like it. And then we had talked about this through text. A lot of the music is just kind of used willy-nilly, and it no longer is attached to a certain place or location. And
they do the jukebox thing.
Well, but even beyond that, like they start playing the overworld music for no reason in one section, and like there's parts where it's like Aerith's theme plays, but it's like, but that shouldn't be here, or like, and there's certain, like I said, Wall Market no longer has the Wall Market music, which is a blessing here because the remix is so bad, but it's
the remix is terrible.
Yeah, but it's still weird that it's not. I don't know. The music used in Final Fantasy VII, very much like for me is like, I hear that song, it's like I know exactly where that is in the game. Here it's like, if you play a song from the remake soundtrack, I'm like, I don't know where that shows up. Like
Yeah,
it's everywhere. Oh, and then also, okay, so like there is a really amazing remix of the boss theme. I've heard it once.
Yeah.
But I've fought so many bosses.
Yeah, no.
And like the battle theme, like there's a bunch of different versions of the battle theme, but they almost never play when you're in battle.
Yeah, it's weird, man. I'm with you though. I think there's some tracks that I'm like, this is really good. And there are tracks where I'm like, boy, I hate what you did here. And like I said, the Turks theme is one of my all-time favorites, like just bar none. I remember like being like, this sounds so cool. And part of the reason I used to love that is I used to love the like opening beat to it.
Yeah.
Like that, that's gone here.
Yeah.
They completely erase it. They just do the little dun where it kicks in. And I'm like, no, that's not. No, you're missing the point. The beat is the best part. What are we doing?
My favorite parts of underneath the rotting pizza aren't there. Like it's weird. I mean,
the bass line is still there, and I love that bass line. Don't get me wrong. That like I do love.
Yeah,
that's a great bass line, but. And also the Shinra theme is one of my all-time favorites. I love the Shinra theme. It has this, it in the original game, and you know, it doesn't come across in the original because, you know, the way they had to do the music in that game, but it felt like this, it felt so oppressive. Like Shinra's, you know, an evil, you know, overbearing company, like they're, you know, fascist almost. And they have their theme is just like very, you know, overbearing and powerful, and it really kicks in and is really, you know, almost like loud, and I loved it about that. But this one is just like they keep playing it and it's very understated, and I kept waiting for like the version where it was just like, oh yeah, that's the Shinra theme. That's what I was waiting, and I never got it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Why? It just kept doing the understated one. I was like, no, you're missing the point of this. That's not how that song is.
Yeah.
You're missing the point of the Shinra theme here.
Missing the point is like the perfect encapsulation of how I feel about the story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But
yeah, I mean, they're okay. I gotta shut my mouth.
I think we should wrap this up. But
I think
yeah,
so.
we've got a lot more to say.
Stay tuned for that.
I almost want to apologize because, like, I'm sorry. Like, you know, I know you guys are loving this game. I'm glad you're loving this game. You know, if it's your first time playing a Final Fantasy and you're loving it, cool. You haven't played Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, that is one thing I will say about the story, that because I don't think it's a spoiler. It might be, maybe it isn't. No, I'm just gonna say this. Listen, if you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII. And you were like really hoping that this would be a retelling. Believe me when I tell you that the ending of this game is no. It's you should go play the original, because actually they're playing awful. Okay, I gotta shut up.
Yeah.
But you're not playing the original one. Go give that a shot, because you'll actually understand a lot more if anything. So if you're really liking it and enjoying it, and you're like, God, these guys are really wrong. And you never played the original, I would say go give that a shot, because you're going to understand a lot more. And maybe it'll either make you see why we're a little upset about certain things, or maybe you'll be like, no, they're still crazy. Fuck those guys. Yeah. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
Great, man. We don't always agree on everything.
I'm willing to hear in the comments, like, you know, why we're wrong. I'm actually really curious to hear from Jeffka if he plays this, because him being like much younger and also just starting to play Final Fantasy games in the last like year and a half or so, and having played Final Fantasy VII just recently and loving it, like I wonder if he, like, what he thinks about this when he plays it, because I was pretty impressed that even though he's like, I think like 20, he's 21, and like he still thoroughly enjoyed that game and could totally see why people love it. And I'm curious to see how he feels about this one once he gets around to it. But there's I've seen a few takes on Twitter where it was people who had never played the original but knew the characters from Kingdom Hearts, or they played like a little of the original but knew the characters from Kingdom Hearts, and they're like, I'm getting really nostalgic over this. I won't call them out by name, but I was like, that's an interesting take. Yeah.
I
mean, it's funny because I was looking at I had made a piece of the art as my work desktop, and I didn't realize that Sephiroth is in the background, and there's something added to him that should not be in promo art. But I guess if you just know him from Kingdom Hearts, then
that makes
exactly. But, okay.
Hey, I'm not gonna. I'm shutting my mouth.
We're just gonna move on. We're not done with this episode, folks, because it is time for us to lower the cage and step into the ring for Video Game Cage Match.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest spectacle on earth. This will be one hellacious ride tonight. This is a 15-foot high steel cage, ladies and gentlemen. Who will triumph? Who will prevail? And who will realize their dream?
This episode, in the steel cage, we have a match booked by Xavier Krieger, who has pitted Horizon Zero Dawn versus XCOM Enemy Unknown in what I like to think of as a battle of the post-apocalyptic warriors. I guess, I guess XCOM is kind of current, like during the apocalypse, kind of what we're going through right now, and then Horizon is after.
In the original one, you're trying to prevent the invasion from happening. Yeah. I think. I can't remember. I don't know, man. It's been a while.
All right. Well, why don't you go first on this one, Justin? I'm curious. Right. I'm curious who you've got in this matchup.
So for a while, I was not really sure as to who. I was like really torn down the middle as to who I thought should win. And I remembered one very important thing that I don't think anybody else has remembered. And that's a bit from XCOM 2. And I know that's not the game at fault here, but hear me out.
Carefully.
Hear me out. Hear me out, Julian. In XCOM 2, you lose, or you lost in XCOM 1. I don't care what happened in XCOM 1, you lost. So guess what? I'm pretty sure that makes Horizon Zero Dawn win this match, because motherfucking XCOM didn't win. They didn't win in their own game. That kind of makes them like a little bit of a jobber, you know?
Okay.
And also, like that's how I feel about that. Like that's a very important detail that I don't think a lot of people remember, because like, in XCOM 2, you're trying to get rid of like the aliens took over. They won the war. Like you are now they are taking over Earth, and now you're a underground resistance group trying to take them out. Where in XCOM 1, I don't think that's the case. I think you may actually are supposed to have won in the original. I don't remember. Yeah, you lost in XCOM. You lose in the original. XCOM Enemy Unknown, you didn't win. Don't stop acting like you did. Which makes them a little bit of a jobber. And I'm going to have to give this to Horizon Zero Dawn. And because also Aloy doesn't have hit percentage chances that are, like kind of lies sometimes. So she isn't bound by that. I feel like she has a huge advantage there. She can bring machines to her side to help her, which would probably and they'll do good. I think Horizon Zero Dawn wins here, and that's just my personal opinion. But it's not ultimately up to me, but that's where I land on this.
No, that's totally fair. You know, from my part, I mean, I've never played XCOM Enemy Unknown, and Horizon Zero Dawn is one of my favorite PS4 games, and it's possibly one of my favorite games of this generation. Having said that, though, things in Horizon, they're actually pretty good. Like, I think most of the people are living a pretty good life. XCOM, things ain't fucking around.
No,
things are very
aren't.
bad. And things will fuck you up real good, real fast. I know that about the game. So for
very much so.
So for that reason, I'm going XCOM Enemy Unknown, because I think that they're not taking any shit. Where Aloy, I think, is just, kind of going on a journey of self-discovery in a very beautiful post-apocalypse, which, I mean, that's one of my favorite things about the game, is that it's a very positive look at the post-apocalypse, which I think is really cool, is that an actual civilization has arisen from the ashes instead of just people living in squalor like in Fallout.
Right.
But yeah, I just don't think that Horizon has the chops to take on like just a brutal, just immovable force like XCOM Enemy Unknown.
We'll see. Well, see, here's the thing, though, right? Because in XCOM, it's basically the. So in Horizon, like, you're seeing the aftermath of what happened, of sort of an XCOM-like thing where things are, being taken over. You're seeing the aftermath of it. And then, Aloy is working on undoing it. And so that's where I think Horizon has the advantage, because now she's coming back on her own and she's going to undo all the bad stuff.
I see it, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. But you're absolutely right. Like, XCOM is not fucking around. Like, it is brutal as all hell. That's why I was like, dude, I was so torn on this until I remembered that XCOM 2 thing. I was like, I feel like that gives them a bit of an advantage because they lost. Like, you lose in the first game. Like, it just happens. Oh, man.
All right. But as always, because we are now at a split decision, but as always, our lovely listeners, in addition to booking the matches, are also our referees. So we're going to start with Facebook. Once again, we have Adam Bradbury, who says, "Gotta give the cage match to XCOM. I like strategy games and I like Warhammer also. There's some real nice satisfaction in taking your shot and wiping out enemy units." And that is a good ass reason.
That is a good reason.
Yeah.
That is a good reason. People don't have the abstract, weird opinions that I do and what wins a cage match, and I respect
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, that's what I love about this segment, is that it can be as arbitrary or as logical as you like.
Exactly.
I like to get super arbitrary.
I like this game better. Yeah, I like this game better. It wins.
Yeah.
Like, cool, great. I like that opinion.
And we do have a bunch from the Square Roots people. I think the first one that we have is from Josh Bennett. Do you see that, Justin?
I do believe I see that, Julian. Josh Bennett says, Horizon Zero Dawn for sure, for the cage match winner, not the regret.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Yes. Next we have Tonin DeQuester, who says Horizon would win because Aloy can hit a Watcher's eyeball from 300 feet away, but an XCOM dude will miss 99% shot when right next to a Muton with 1 health left.
Yeah, that was a point I brought up. Yeah, those percentages, man.
That is the thing that scares me about playing that game, because I do want to play it, but that was the big problem that I had playing Valkyria Chronicles, was I felt that the numbers were just lies.
Yeah, I don't know. You might dig it more. I don't know. There's something about, I don't know, Valkyria Chronicles looks weird to me. I'd have to play them both to give you a solid opinion on the differences, but because I just haven't played Valkyria Chronicles. Let's see, who's next? Sam Harrison? Is he next? All right, Sam Harrison has opinions about this cage match, and they sound like this. He says, "I have got to speak up for XCOM Enemy Unknown, one of my all-time favorites. I spent many happy hours campaigning against the alien menace. I've been meaning to give Horizon Zero Dawn a try, but XCOM is a part of my personal history to such an extent I'd have to keep it in first. It was there for me both during a promising relationship and then through the bad breakup that followed." Well,
that's very important. Yeah.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's real good. Yeah.
Yep.
You should definitely give XCOM or give Horizon a try, though. It is. Mwah.
After that, we have Devin Sloan, and he says, also XCOM Enemy Unknown takes that match. So
all right. That's off to a big lead on, well, not a huge lead. It's actually pretty close. But the Squoots are into XCOM.
That makes sense to me. Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, Horizon's kind of a action RPG in the vein of The Witcher, but
Yeah, but more action than anything, I would say. See, if they had combat like that in Final Fantasy VII Remake, I would have been okay with it. Anyway.
All right, let's head over on to pixelbit.com.
.com?
I'd say that sometimes. Yeah.
No, I like it. No,
it's from an old Mega 64 sketch from when EGM got shut down.
Okay, all right.
Let's see. I think I am next, and I have San Andreas over at Pixelbit, who says, "My vote goes to XCOM. That kind of turn-based strategy agrees well with me as a fan of Valkyria Chronicles and, well, Sakura Wars. Extremely well done and detailed. I passed Horizon Zero Dawn over at the time in favor of Breath of the Wild." Man. Yeah, I understand that.
Horizon Zero Dawn came out in one hell of a... It came out in murderer's row of video games. Like, You had Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey. Oh,
dude, and it was really, as much as I love Horizon, it was really hard to play Breath of the Wild and then play another open world RPG and not be able to climb on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they came out the same month. There's nothing that they could have done, but it's just like,
right.
Sorry, Horizon.
Yeah, it got released at just the worst time. It really did.
It did okay though. I think it did just fine.
It probably did. I can't wait for 2. Anyway, after that we have Superstep. And he says this about the cage match. He says, Horizon has to win because I'll never beat it. But yeah, Aloy just comes up with that right arrow combo for whoever is in XCOM and bam. Aloy wins. If she can take down a Thunderjaw, she can take down an alien horde or whatever. All right.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
That's a very good point. That's the point I brought up as well.
Yep. Next up, we have Casey Curran, who says XCOM because many people beat Horizon with no issues, but no one beats XCOM on their first save file, or can ever see a 95% statistic without getting triggered ever again. Very true. That game sounds very hard. Yes,
hard in a fun way. I don't know. I loved. I like the challenge and bullshit about it. But after that, we have Bookie, and he has things to say about this cage match. And they're interesting things because he says, "Did you two summon a new XCOM game with your podcast? I'm not messing with whatever witchcraft you guys called forth. Go with that." I was like, it really made me stop and think. I was like, did we do that? Did we do that?
100%, yes. That new XCOM game that was announced, that was like, was summoning magic.
Oh, yeah. I forgot there was I was really excited to play that too. I can't wait for that.
Dude, you don't remember when I asked for the blood and semen sample so that I could put it into the ritual?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was weird at the time, but now I get it.
That's what that was for.
Makes sense. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess that's an XCOM. Yeah, I guess that's a vote for XCOM.
That's a vote for XCOM. That's a vote for XCOM.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Xrian, who says, I've never played XCOM, but it's always seemed intriguing. I'm pretty sure that Aloy would have a hard time facing thousands of aliens. Then she's also fighting robot dinosaurs. Sure, she has an awesome array of weapons, but that don't impress them much since they probably got nukes. Winner, Captain of the XCOM Force, Shania Twain. Okay.
I did see. Okay, I didn't know Shania Twain was involved. That was not part of my decision-making process. I feel like I've done a disservice to everyone. Had I known Shania Twain was involved with XCOM, I would have went that route. I'm just saying, I would have went that route.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually trying to summon Shania Twain to my bedroom, but then I did something wrong with the ritual, and I got a new XCOM game. So you're welcome, everybody. But it's sad for me because
I'm sorry to hear that, Julian.
Because she do impress me much, Justin.
She do impress you much.
Yes.
I mean, she likes horses. She's a big fan of horses, Julian. I don't know if you knew that.
I would like my boots to be under her bed.
Is that a Shania Twain song?
Well, whose bed have your boots been under? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a Shania Twain song.
You can't live in Texas without going through a country stint, and So when I was in high school,
mention the songs, I will know them. I've heard all of them. My father was a big country fan, and I've never gotten it. He still listens to it, and it sounds worse than it did before. I'm sorry, country music fans. I don't understand that style of music. Anyway, after that, we have Xavier Krieger on Twitter. Am I right?
No, we actually. Oh, right. Yes, because
he didn't have.
Okay. You are right.
Jamie did not have a stage select. Yeah.
Let me switch over to the Twitter.
No worries, sir.
All right. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
All right. We have Xavier Krieger. He is at Cadis Bane over on the Twitter. He has an opinion about this cage match, and it sounds like this. He says, I think that Aloy could easily hold her on her own against any of the aliens, or even army if it came down to it. Even an army if it came down to it, but unfortunately, as she's taking out enemies left and right, the never-ending supply of aliens would eventually wear her down as she fights on her own. I guess she's going to what in the robot dinosaurs everywhere that she's hacked to fight alongside her. Horizon Zero Dawn wins. That's also a good point. Yep.
I appreciate Xavier like really getting down with the wrestling on his cage match comments, because he knows how this goes. Yes,
he does. There's always a swerve. He's writing in those Vince Russo swerves is what he's doing.
Yes.
For better or worse.
Yeah, next up we have Blaine Faya on Twitter @BlaineFaya, who says, Horizon Zero Dawn. Why? Because I had to look them up to see what these games were, and the art on the case for Horizon is way more badass. Honestly, I was too lazy to dig deeper into these games, so yeah, shrug shoulders.
There you go. I like
totally valid, sir.
Totally valid in this situation. All arguments are valid.
Once again, though, you should get on that Horizon.
It's a pretty good game.
You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game. I enjoy it.
Yes.
After that, we have our buddy Jeffka, and he is @JustOff, and he says things about this cage match. He says, I actually haven't played XCOM, and Horizon Zero Dawn didn't do much for me. It felt too much like Assassin's Creed with some admittedly cool monsters. I have played that Mario X Rabbids game, which the internet just called Mario XCOM, and I loved that. So XCOM. Hey, these reasons don't have to be good. And he's right.
They don't. I mean, you know, we are talking about someone who thinks that Super Mario Sunshine is one of the best games.
And he also thinks
couldn't resist.
Oh no, Jeffka has a lot of hot takes that are easy to take pot shots at. I mean, when he told me that Dante's Inferno was the best hack and slash game ever made, I was like, okay, no, that's not the case at all. But you keep living that life, bud. I appreciate it.
All right. Last but certainly not least, on Twitter, we have Esteban Islas, who is on Twitter @expired. And he says, another matchup where two games enter and I've played neither. That's fine. Both games I've actually had interest in playing. XCOM has always been daunting to me because of the strategy element, and I hear great things all the time about Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm giving my vote to Horizon because that is a game that I will probably play before I try out XCOM. Oh, Justin, it is close. Is
it close? Dude. I really expect XCOM to win here, but
yes, XCOM wins, but this is a slobber knocker, my friend.
Oh, I'll be damned.
You know, I thought like early on, XCOM was definitely like just had a flurry of offense, you know. But Horizon, you know, it really battled back. You know, got a good number of forearms in there. You know, really good sunset flip. Got some off the turnbuckle action. It was looking really good. The only problem is that Aloy kind of she was kind of trying to like sneak around the ring. Like I don't think she really understood what was going on, like how you were actually supposed to wrestle in this match. And then XCOM just like kind of sniped her from, you know, the cover that she was trying to get into.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was thinking it was a very much more XCOM scenario where Aloy just happened to stumble on the one unbeatable killing machine that you didn't expect at that part, and now you're dead, and your entire team's dead, and you need to reload that save.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That happens.
Yeah. So, congratulations to her XCOM Enemy Unknown for that very well fought victory, and thank you to everybody who submitted for Stage Select and Video Game Cage Match this episode, especially for first time submitters. I hope you guys enjoyed this. But as always, Justin, we always have another match on the horizon. Right. That wasn't even intentional.
I was waiting for one of us to use that, and it just never happened. I was a bit I'm glad one of us did. Thank God.
Yes. This one actually just came into us, and I actually am on a new computer while we're recording this, so I don't have my list handy. But this is actually a really fantastic one. So this matchup comes to us from Esteban Islas, and he is going to pit the Simpsons arcade game versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game in another battle of arcade supremacy, this time with licensed beat-em-ups. So
I like it.
I love that matchup.
Those are two of my favorite arcade games of all time. So
yeah, that is going to be one hell of a match. Let me tell you.
I agree.
But yes, so we're going to want those by 8:30 Central Time on May 1st. And before we head out of here, Justin, remind us what we're doing for Stage Select next episode.
I want to hear the songs from video games that make you happy, or that make you laugh, or make you just feel good inside. Just any of the... It's a bad time for the world right now. Just want some real good, positive sounding music, and I think it'll be good for all of our souls to hear it.
Definitely.
Yes.
And then once again for the once again for the cage match, we are pitting the Simpsons arcade game versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. And we are talking about the original arcade cabinets. We're not talking about ports or anything. Well, yeah, and Simpsons didn't come out until like the Xbox 360. So yeah, but we're not talking about like the Super Nintendo or NES version of Ninja Turtles. We're talking about that really cool 4-player arcade cabinet.
Right.
So definitely get those to us.
Absolutely.
Once again, by 8:30 Central Time, May the 1st. You can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 174. You can DM us on Twitter at NWPcast. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdswithoutpantspodcast. You can find us on Twitter as well. Justin?
I am at Tyrone_Swift, or you can tweet my other podcast, which is pretty much just me as well, at Clickbait Update. If you see me comment from the wrong thing, it's because I suck at Twitter.
Do you know what's going on at the bottom of the page yet?
We are the most last-minute podcast ever, and so no, I don't actually yet. I'm sure we'll put it together, though, and it'll be good. What was our last...
It sure will be a podcast.
It sure will be a podcast. Our last episode, we talked about magicians, and I had a lot of fun doing that. It was pretty good.
Yes.
David Copperfield's hilarious. He made the Statue of Liberty disappear for freedom. That's the best shit I've ever heard in my life. So go learn about David Copperfield.
And you can find me on Twitter at Julian_Titus. Once again, you can find the show at NWPcast. If you enjoyed this show, consider rating and reviewing it wherever you rate and review your podcasts, and possibly subscribe and tell a friend. We would appreciate that. Also, our theme song, Relax, as well as interstitial tracks, To the Maxx and Moody Grooves, come to us from the talented Megan McDuffie. You can find her on social media. Just search for Megan McDuffie. She's all over the place. But that is going to do it for this episode of Nerds Without Pants. So for myself and Justin, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.